Chapter 251 Qi King Mo and Number 039, S whereabouts. Encounter with a strange person. You were born and raised on Earth, but you chose to join a foreign race. It's all your own fault. Qin Chuan looked at the ashes on the ground and said with no emotion in his voice. Secretary Guan, who turned into a puddle of ashes, had watched him grow up, and he had made his belly bigger, but he didn't hesitate at all when he started, and he was very decisive. Not harming the interests of people on Earth is his bottom line. Otherwise, the mother will be killed as well. Not to mention a mere child lover. The evolutionary talent you showed during the day was so strong that it shocked me. Except for those old antiques who have lived for countless epochs, I have never seen anyone on Earth more talented than you. You have a bright future. Qin Chuan looked at Lin Zichen aside, his eyes full of approval. Lin Zichen didn't care about the praise in the conversation, and there was no fluctuation in his heart. What he cares about is the word old antique. So, he asked, City Lord, those old antiques that have lived for unknown ages refer to? Qin Chuan said calmly, it refers to the immortal gods who have survived from the age of gods to the present, that is, ancient humans. After saying that, he added, the master of your Tianren pavilion is one of them. Lin Zichen knows better than anyone else that Qi King Mo is an ancient human being. He was not surprised when Qin Chuan said this. Moreover, from Qin Chuan's words, he confirmed one of his previous guesses. There were other ancient humans on Earth. It is these powerful existences that have kept the Earth from being breached by the source. By the way, City Lord, do you have any news about our pavilion lord? Lin Zichen thought of Qi King Mo, who had no news, and took this opportunity to ask Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan is the lord of City Number 1, so he must be very knowledgeable about the source. If anyone knows Qi King Mo's whereabouts, Qin Chuan is probably one of them. Your pavilion master, some time ago, entered the southern wilderness beast realm alone. He refined a large number of exotic beasts like a female devil, and finally forced his way into a ruins. He has not come out until now. Qin Chuan picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea, and then said, this is the first time I have seen such an arrogant and powerful man as your pavilion master in the origin land for hundreds of years. The pavilion master is so fierce? After listening to what Qin Chuan said, Lin Zichen felt a little surprised, but more of a joy. There was no news about Qi King Mo for so long, and he was preparing for the worst, worried that something unexpected might happen to Qi King Mo. Now it seems that this worry is completely unnecessary. Qi King Mo is far more powerful than he imagined. So, what is the strength of the pavilion master? Myth level? Or what realm? Anyway, it's definitely better than the legendary. Lin Zichen thought silently in his heart. Qin Chuan picked up a teacup, poured a cup of hot tea, put it on the table, and said to Lin Zichen who was still standing. Sit down and talk over a drink. His voice was very calm when he spoke, and it was impossible to tell that he had just killed someone. And he killed his lover who was pregnant with his own flesh and blood. There is a kind of ruthless indifference of an emperor. Lin Zichen pulled out a chair and sat down opposite Qin Chuan to drink tea. Looks natural. Move with ease. Not formal at all. Qin Chuan took another sip of tea and asked, how much do you know about the master of your Tianren pavilion? Lin Zichen said without thinking, except that she has lived for a long time, I don't know any other information. The master of the pavilion is very mysterious. This is not true. He still knows a lot about Qi King Mo. After all, when he was giving Qi King Mo a blood transfusion, he often chatted with Qi King Mo to pass the time. However, what he knew about Qi King Mo would only rot in his stomach and he would not tell anyone. Qi King Mo was one of his own, a foster mother who often fed him evolutionary resources, while the city lord Qin Chuan was just an insignificant outsider. It is a very stupid behavior to reveal the information about the adoptive mother in front of outsiders. Even though this outsider is the lord of a city that protects the earth. Seeing that Lin Zichen said he didn't know, Qin Chuan didn't ask any more questions, but simply said, you are already strong enough now. In the future, go out and experience more to familiarize yourself with the environment of the place of origin. Lin Zichen, that's what the city lord said. He had this plan himself, and had already agreed with Fu Zhou to take him and Shen Qinghan with him when he went out of the city to practice. By the way, what's going on with your and Shen Qinghan's parents? You two have such high evolutionary talents, why are your parents ordinary people? Qin Chuan suddenly asked. Lin Zichen couldn't answer this question at all. He is strong because time travel comes with a plug-in. As for Shen Qinghan, this is still an unsolved mystery, and no one knows the reason. I don't know about this, and I'm also very confused. Obviously my parents are ordinary people, why do Shen Qinghan and I have such high evolutionary talents? Lin Zichen replied. Qin Chuan nodded without asking the question in detail. Because he knew that Lin Zichen himself couldn't figure out the reason, and there was no point in digging into his roots. The conversation in the office lasted for more than half an hour. The content of the conversation was very complicated. Basically, Lin Zichen kept asking, and Qin Chuan patiently answered. Ask about the power of the place of origin. Ask the ancient humans on Earth. I asked a lot of questions, but the answers I got were shallow. The next morning, it was just dawn. Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan were waiting in front of the city gate early in the morning, and they were going to go out of the city with Fuzhou for training. Lin Ziai, why are there so many traitors? Even the city lord's secretary is a traitor. This world is too insecure. Shen Qinghan complained in a low voice, trying not to let the guards on the city wall hear. Last night, as soon as Lin Zichen came back to the dormitory, he told her that he was attacked in the office, and the attacker was the city lord's secretary. When she heard about it at the time, she felt very unbelievable. It is still the same until now. From time to time, I couldn't help but complain, thinking that this matter was outrageous and felt very uneasy. Lin Zichen explained, the current situation on Earth is a bit hopeless. Many people think that the Earth will be invaded by the source sooner or later. In this case, there will naturally be more traitors. Lin Ziai, if one day the Earth really can't resist the invasion of the source, then we will also be traitors. Shen Qinghan lowered his voice very low, almost only the shape of his mouth without sound. Lin Zichen turned his head to look at her, his expression was very solemn, and he said, as Earthlings, we must not have such thoughts, understand? I understand, I just said it casually, don't take it seriously. I'm afraid others will take it seriously. I know I was wrong. Shen Qinghan said weakly. Seeing that she understood, Lin Zichen stopped preaching to her. If the earth is really breached by the source one day. Lin Zichen felt that it was normal and understandable to have the idea of being raped. After all, the instinct of living beings is to live. However, this idea can only rot in the heart, and must not be said or shown. Otherwise, it is to seek death. At this time, a voice came from the front. Zichen, didn't we agree to 6 o'clock? Why did you two come so early? It was Fuzhou who came, and brought a royal sister with a high ponytail. This lady is also a member of the team of extraordinary geniuses. Lin Zichen had noticed her before and knew that she was 25 years old this year, named Wu Xia, and her biological level was advanced level 6. I woke up early and had nothing to do, so I came here to take a look. Lin Zichen said calmly. Fuzhou came over, holding Wu Xia's hand all the way, and said with a smile, her name is Wu Xia, and she is also a member of the team. We are a couple. He thought that Lin Zichen had just arrived and should not know Wu Xia, so he introduced her. Sister Ye, you can just call me Zichen, and her name is King Han. Out of politeness, Lin Zichen introduced himself and Shen Qinghan to Wu Xia. In fact, it doesn't matter whether to introduce or not. The reputation itself is big enough. Everyone in the city knows it. Wu Xia didn't expect that such a genius like Lin Zichen would be so polite, and immediately smiled and said, then I will call you Zichen and King Han in the future. After a few simple exchanges, the four of them quickly went out of the city to experience. The destination is all the places around the city. It's called training, but it's no different from traveling. Because Lin Zichen's strength is too strong, he is invincible in the stable area. He is so invincible that no matter what kind of plants and beasts he encounters, he will be killed in the blink of an eye. Fuzhou and Wu Xia have become tour guides. They are only responsible for leading the way. First, the desert facing the city gate, then the forest on the right side of the city, and finally the lake on the left side of the city. Fuzhou and Wu Xia spent nearly half a month taking Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan around these three areas, so that the two newcomers can be as familiar with the environment around the city as possible. We have basically gone through the stable area. Zichen, are you going to go back to the city to rest and enter the dangerous area later, or do you want to go in now? On the shore of the lake, Fuzhou looked at Lin Zichen and asked. Lin Zichen didn't answer in a hurry, but looked at Shen Qinghan beside him and asked, do you want to go back and rest, or do you want to go into the dangerous area? Shen Qinghan said indecisively, I'll listen to you. Lin Zichen said to Fuzhou, then let's go into the dangerous area and take a look at the edge. Fuzhou, okay, then I'll take you in for a look. If it were normal, he would not dare to enter the dangerous area at all, as his biological level was only advanced level 7. He only dared to go in for a look when he was in a team with a strong man. And in his eyes, Lin Zichen was a strong man with strong strength. With Lin Zichen, he felt that it would not be dangerous to go around the periphery of the dangerous area. Soon, the four of them entered the dangerous area with their eyes and ears open. As soon as they entered, Lin Zichen found something obviously different. The energy in the dangerous area was more intense, and vitality was everywhere. At a glance, there are towering trees everywhere, strange flowers and plants all over the ground, and many strange creatures. It's like entering a magical fantasy world. Lin Ziai, there are dandelions here too. Shen Qinghan walked quickly to a plant that looked like a dandelion and stopped, looking at it with surprise. Lin Zichen looked over and saw a plant that looked exactly like a dandelion. The only difference is that dandelions on Earth are all white, while this ordinary plant in front of him is black, and it also emits a trace of black air, which looks very strange. Xia, I remember that flying flower grass is not purple, why is this flying flower grass black? Fu Zhou looked at the black dandelion in front of him, frowning slightly and wondering. He has been in the origin for so many years, and is quite familiar with the origin plants such as flying flower grass. In his impression, the flying flower grass is dull purple, not the black in front of him. Wu Xia stepped forward and looked at it, her eyes full of doubts. Indeed, the flying flowers and plants I have seen are all purple, but this is the first time I have encountered black ones. Could it be a mutant plant? Fu Zhou suddenly thought of this, and a hint of excitement could be seen on his face when he said this. Wu Xia thought for a moment and said, it doesn't feel like it. I've seen a lot of mutant plants, but I've never seen a black mutant plant. And you see, this flying flower grass is emitting traces of black air. It feels lifeless, without any life at all. It doesn't look like a mutated plant. After hearing what Wu Xia said, Fu Zhou felt that it didn't look like a mutated plant. Then he looked at Shen Qinghan and Lin Zichen and said, Ziai Chen, Qinghan, that's not a dandelion, it's probably a flying flower grass infected with some kind of virus. It's better that we don't get too close, otherwise we're afraid of danger. When Shen Qinghan heard this, he immediately took a few steps back and away from the flying flowers and grass in front of him. Lin Zichen did not step back, but still stood close and looked at the flying flowers and grass. His invulnerability to all poisons was not triggered, which meant that the black energy on the flying flower grass was not poisonous. After looking at it for a while, Lin Zichen ignored the flying flowers and grass on the ground and said to Fu Zhou and Wu Xia, let's continue going deeper. Good. Fu Zhou nodded and continued to lead Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan to familiarize themselves with the periphery of the dangerous area. After taking just a few steps, Lin Zichen stretched his hands behind his back, aimed at the flying flower grass lingering in the black air, breathed in the air, and put it into the storage space. He planned to study this strange origin plant carefully after returning to the city. What's going on? Why are there so many plants filled with black energy? The few people walked, probably covering a distance of more than 2 miles. Fu Zhou, who was leading the way, suddenly stopped and frowned. In a bush ahead, he found a large number of plants covered in black air, exuding a sense of lifeless silence, which made people feel extremely uneasy. Let's go around. Wu Xia frowned and suggested. Places like the origin are too dangerous. When you are weak and encounter unknown things, it is best not to be curious, but to stay away. At this moment, a hoarse voice came faintly from the bushes. You guys are here, why don't you stay and kill some time? As soon as he finished speaking, a man with a black aura all over his body came out of the bushes. The moment the other party appears, Lin Zichen's danger sense was triggered instantly. Beating like crazy. The biological level of rare third-ordered Dzogchen. The body contains rich source power. The man in front of me with a dark aura is a strange person. P.S. Set the bowls, please recommend monthly tickets. End of chapter. Chapter 252 Return to Earth. Meet my younger sister. It's the alien from the land of silence. Fu Zhou looked at the man who walked out of the bushes with an extremely solemn expression. Wu Xia beside him was even more solemn than him. Wu Xia was very sensitive to death. She felt an extremely strong breath of death in the black air emanating from the man. From this strong breath of death that made her feel terrified, the biological level of the man in front of her was at least rare. What is the land of silence? Lin Zichen stared at the man and asked Fu Zhou beside him. Fu Zhou broke out in a cold sweat, but he tried to calm down and explain, the source land is divided into 5 regions, namely the central region, the eastern region, the western region, the southern region, and the northern region. The region where our Earth city is located is in the southern region. The source land forces that invaded our Earth are mainly the forces in the southern region, such as the Sun and Moon Holy Land. And the Land of Destruction is a place located at the edge of the western region. It is dead there, and there are a lot of strange people whose cultivation systems are very underworld. The black air emanating from the man in front of me is very underworld. If nothing unexpected happens, he should be a strange person from the Land of Destruction. Fu Zhou made a well-reasoned analysis and roughly determined the identity of the man in front of him. Mo Suduo, the man with black air all over his body, smiled after listening to Fu Zhou's analysis. Good analysis, I am indeed from the Land of Destruction. He smiled indifferently, and did not take Lin Zichen and others in front of him seriously at all. He has a special means of perception and knows that Lin Zichen and others are advanced creatures and pose no threat to him. What are the strangers from the Land of Silence doing in the southern region? Fu Zhou forced himself to calm down and asked Makutuo this question. The 5 major regions of the source are independent and do not interfere with each other. Normally, strangers from the Land of Silence will not come to the southern region, but will only stay in the western region. This is a bit abnormal. Makuduo said in a cold voice, I came all the way to the southern region, so I have something to do, but before doing this, I think I have to kill you first. The moment the voice fell, the black air lingering around Makuduo suddenly became extremely dense, submerging him in it and forming a cloud-like hazy black fog. As the concentration continued to deepen, the black fog quickly spread towards Lin Zichen and others. Any creatures that passed by lost their vitality in the blink of an eye, turning into a pile of ashes and dissipating with the wind. Run! After seeing the horror of the black fog, Fu Zhou shouted at the first moment, and turned and ran before he finished speaking. Seeing this, Wu Xia and Shen Qinghan ran with him without hesitation. Lin Zichen did not run, but chose to stay and delay Makuduo hidden in the black fog, giving Shen Qinghan and the other two time to escape. He faced the black fog flying at high speed, and with a thought, he used Higher Spirit and Lord of the Forest to control the towering trees within a radius of several miles. Boom boom boom. There was a huge cracking sound, and the whole land under his feet trembled. Within a radius of several miles, countless towering trees of hundreds of meters rose up from the ground, with large branches and leaves, rushing towards the black fog at a high speed. In a very short time, a huge and airtight tree cage was formed, blocking the black fog inside and preventing it from moving forward. Then, buzz, buzz, buzz. A sharp sound of breaking through the air sounded. In the tree cage, countless scarlet and thick vines shot out from the dense branches and leaves, and shot into the thick black fog at a high speed. And then, puff, puff, puff. A sound of flesh and blood being pierced sounded. Lin Zichen, who was outside the black fog, could clearly feel that the scarlet vines he controlled pierced the Makuduo from the land of silence in the thick black fog. He didn't expect it would be so easy to hit the opponent, and he was stunned for a moment. But soon, he reacted, and while the vines were not completely corroded by the black fog, he quickly activated the biological attribute of deadly venom and injected a large amount of toxins into the body of Makuduo in the black fog through the vines. It took only a few seconds. The originally extremely thick black fog gradually began to fade, completely exposing Makuduo hidden in the black fog to Lin Zichen's perception range. Why can you control the magic vines of the Sun and Moon Holy Land and release poison? Makuduo looked at the dense branches and leaves around him with a face full of shock. His voice sounded extremely weak. He was constantly gasping for breath and losing vitality. The venom injected into his body by Lin Zichen was very toxic. Even though he was a rare third-level great perfection creature, he was poisoned and his whole body was numb, his blood was disordered, and he knelt on the ground powerlessly. Seeing that the other party was poisoned so easily, Lin Zichen's face was full of surprise. This is a strange person with a rare third-level great perfection creature, and my creature level is only advanced 8th level. How could I poison him instantly? Although it was an accident, Lin Zichen did not stand there and give Makuduo time to recover. Seeing that the venom he released was effective, he immediately controlled more vines, stabbed them into Makuduo's body, and injected venom crazily. In an instant, Makuduo's body was filled with poison, poison was flowing out of his 7 orifices, his face turned purple, and he looked like he was about to die. Lin Zichen took advantage of his illness to kill him, and quickly controlled more scarlet vines to shoot out, wrapping Makuduo into a cicada and pulling him into the air. Then, he contracted hard. Puff. Only the sound of a soft object breaking was heard. The scarlet vines wrapped around Makuduo's body tightened instantly, squeezing the Makuduo inside into a pool of scarlet blood, which slowly seeped out from the gaps in the same scarlet vines. Just die like this? It seems that the aliens in the place of origin are not as powerful as imagined. Thinking about it, Lin Zichen moved all the towering trees away. Then, he thought again, devour. The moment the thought fell, a text message appeared in the void. There is no alien life source in the body, so it cannot be swallowed. No origin of alien life? What's the meaning? Are aliens and earthlings the same race? After seeing the content in the prompt message, Lin Zichen had a lot of thoughts in his heart. At the same time, behind him, Fu Zhou, Wu Xia, and Shen Qinghan all stopped and looked at the blood-stained cicada chrysalis in midair with disbelief, their eyes filled with astonishment. None of the three of them expected that Lin Zichen could solve it so easily. You know, that's a stranger. And he is also an alien who is at least at the rare level. He was instantly killed. This is a little too unreal. Lin Zichen saw the three people stop and the shock on their faces, but ignored them. But with a thought, he manipulated the vines to pull a bag as big as a palm over. This bag was left over from the remains of Moshtu. The toughness is very high and the vines cannot be broken. Soon, the bag fell into his hand, and Lin Zichen looked at it carefully. It's not made of cloth, but of biological leather. After studying it, it felt very familiar, like the lining of the mouth of a dimensional rat. So, this dirty-looking bag is a storage bag? Lin Zichen was slightly excited. If it is really a storage bag, it must contain a lot of good things. After all, this is a storage bag belonging to a rare third-level Dzogchen origin alien. Soon, Lin Zichen released his mental power and seeped into the bag that seemed to be a storage bag in his hand. Then I discovered that there were many blue crystals as big as fists inside, they were beast cores. In addition, there are some strange flowers and plants with strange shapes, as well as some small objects that are not recognized. This harvest is really not small. The saying that murder and arson are a golden belt is indeed correct. The money came in too fast. Lin Zichen thought to himself. Soon, the three people behind him ran back and saw the blood-stained cicada chrysalis in mid-air. The more they looked at it, the more shocked they became. The three of them still find it hard to believe that Lin Zichen can easily kill a rare alien in an instant. It's so powerful that it feels incredible, even unbelievable. Let's go, let's continue to familiarize ourselves with the perimeter of the dangerous area. Lin Zichen had an idea and put the storage bag into the storage space, planning to take it out and study it slowly after returning to the city. Fuzhou originally wanted to return to the city, but he was worried that he would encounter danger again. But then I thought about it. Lin Zichen was so powerful that as long as he didn't encounter any extremely powerful rare high-level creatures, there should be no danger. So in the following time, Fuzhou continued to act as a tour guide for Lin Zichen, carefully leading him to familiarize himself with the environment outside the dangerous area. With this familiarity, 2.5 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the past 2.5 days, Lin Zichen encountered many strange plants and animals, many of which were rare creatures that occupied an area as their territory. Facing these powerful alien beasts, he didn't even move. He simply used Lord of the Forest to control the vines all over the sky to kill them all instantly, and collected important evolutionary resources such as beast cores into the storage space. That's it for 2.5 days. Full of rewards. Lin Zichen estimated that if he brought so many beast cores back, he could at least save several thousand contribution points in the exchange hall. At that time, you can use these contribution points to exchange for evolutionary resources and improve your biological level. Zichen, is there anything else you'd like to get familiar with? After taking Lin Zichen to visit a new area in a dangerous area, Fuzhou stopped and turned around to ask tiredly. His fatigue was not caused by the long journey. Instead, he was shocked by Lin Zichen's evolutionary talent, and now he is very tired. This then leads to a lot of physical fatigue. No, let's end this experience outside the city. If there is a chance another day, we will come out and practice with you two again. Lin Zichen replied. He really felt that he was done shopping, and now he just wanted to go back to the city and take out the things in the alien storage bag in the Land of Desolation. Also, exchange all the beast cores in the storage space for contribution points to see what evolutionary resources can be redeemed. Probably a few hours later, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan, who had been out of the city for several days to practice, returned to the city smoothly. Under the leadership of Lin Zichen, Shen Qinghan followed him into the exchange hall. I randomly picked a front desk with fewer people. Lin Zichen walked up and lined up. When he was in line, he handed the storage bag he had taken out in advance to a staff member at the counter. The staff member is a woman who looks to be in her 30s. But no one knows how old he is actually. Because all those who can enter the source are advanced creatures. And advanced creatures age slowly, and you can't tell how old they are just by looking at their appearance. Take the woman in the window, for example, she looks like she is only in her early 30s. But in fact, the other party may be a grandmother who is nearly 100 years old. Hello, I want to exchange the contents of this storage bag for contribution points. Lin Zichen handed over the storage bag and said. The woman saw that it was a storage bag and was immediately surprised. You just entered the source not long ago, where did you get this storage bag? Lin Zichen is very famous in city number 1, and almost everyone has heard of him. It was really too outrageous that he manipulated a large area of towering trees to form a tree cage and summoned countless scarlet vines to defeat the entire alien-level team that day, and it spread all over the city in an instant. Facing the woman's surprise and confusion, Lin Zichen told the truth, telling her about his experience of following Fuzhou to the dangerous area outside the city for training in the past few days, and then meeting the aliens from the Land of Destruction. After listening, the woman's eyes widened. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Aliens from the Land of Destruction? Aren't they the aliens living in the innermost part of the western region of the source? How could they appear in the southern region? The woman had been in the source for hundreds of years and knew what this meant. After quickly exchanging the contribution points for Lin Zichen, she immediately contacted the leader to report the matter. Lin Zichen didn't care so much. Seeing that he now had as many as 4396 contribution points, he immediately went to another place in the hall to exchange evolutionary resources. He looked around. Rare evolutionary resources basically require thousands of contribution points to exchange for one. In the end, Lin Zichen exchanged for 4 rare-level exotic fruits. 2 are for improving blood and qi. 2 are for improving spirit. The main focus is on balance. After doing all this, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan quickly returned to the dormitory and ate the 4 rare fruits they exchanged. After that, Lin Zichen's biological level evolved to the advanced 9th level. And Shen Qinghan evolved to the advanced 8th level, evolving 2 levels in a row, and the gap with Lin Zichen returned to the previous 1 level difference. Lin Zichen carefully felt his advanced 9th level body and felt that it was at least 10 times stronger than the advanced 8th level, and his strength improved greatly. The source is indeed an advanced version of the earth. Evolving here is as easy as drinking water. Lin Zichen thought to himself while feeling his body. In the past, on Earth, it took almost a year to get stuck at the ordinary 9th level. And here in the source, it took only a short time to evolve to the advanced 9th level, which was ridiculously fast. By the way, Lin Ziai, we have been here for so long, Aunt Xin should have given birth by now, should we go back to Earth to see Aunt Xin? Shen Qinghan was a little homesick, and suggested to Lin Zichen with her watery peach blossom eyes. When Lin Zichen heard this, he immediately had the same idea in his mind, nodded and said, well, I'll go ask if I can go back. He also missed his parents and the warm family of 3. But compared to missing, he is more curious about the sister he has never met. Before he entered the source, the sister had been moving around in Zhang Wangzhen's belly like a hyperactive person, feeling like a cheater. According to the time, this suspected cheater sister should be born, and we have to go back to see her. I hope she is a local, not a time traveler or a reborn person. Lin Zichen silently hopes in his heart. P.S. Set up the bowl, ask for monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 253 The Power of the Source. The sister who has achieved sanctification in the flesh. City Lord's office. Qin Chuan sat at the tea table, sipping the freshly brewed hot tea while listening to a grey-haired old man reporting to him. The old man who reported to him was the general manager of the exchange hall, in charge of the exchange of evolutionary resources in the entire warehouse. On Earth, he would be a powerful finance minister with a very high status. You said, there are aliens from the land of destruction in the dangerous area outside the city. Qin Chuan put down the teacup in his hand, raised his eyebrows slightly, and asked with some surprise. The person in charge of the exchange hall, an old man called Old Man Li, nodded and said. Yes, there is an alien from the land of desolation in the dangerous area. Lin Zichen, Shen Qinghan, Fu Zhou and Wu Xia encountered him when they went out of the city for training. According to the information, the alien creature in the land of desolation is as high as the rare level, but was instantly strangled by a large number of scarlet and thick vines controlled by Lin Zichen, and had no power to fight back the whole time. This little guy who grew up on Earth is so strong that it is really incredible. As Old Man Li was talking, he talked about Lin Zichen. He felt very unbelievable about this genius who had just entered the source place not long ago but could shine so brilliantly. He has lived for nearly 1,000 years and has never seen an earthling as talented as Lin Zichen. Qin Chuan said after listening, well, I know about this. I will send a reconnaissance team out of the city to investigate and see what is going on. Old Man Li, City Lord, there is nothing to do. I will go back to the exchange hall first. Go back. Qin Chuan waved his hand, indicating that he should leave quickly. After Old Man Li left, Qin Chuan fell into a period of contemplation, thinking about what the aliens from the Land of Silence were doing in the South region. Could it be, that the Sun and Moon Holy Land and the Land of Silence have joined forces? It feels unlikely. There should be some other reasons. Just as Qin Chuan was thinking, the door of the office was knocked. It was Lin Zichen knocking on the door outside, bringing Shen Qinghan with him. City Lord, I have something to discuss with you. Lin Zichen's voice came from outside the door. Qin Chuan's face was calm, come in directly. Creaky. A heavy door opening sounded. Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan walked in and stood respectfully in front of the tea table. What's the matter? Qin Chuan guessed that it was about the Land of Silence, but still asked. However, Lin Zichen did not talk about the aliens in the Land of Silence, but said. City Lord, she and I want to go back to Earth. We have just found Instructor Lan. Instructor Lan said that he can't make the decision on this matter and needs your consent. When Lin Zichen said this, he was very puzzled. It's just an application to go back to Earth, why do you have to ask the City Lord for consent? Is the City Lord so idle? Do you have to take care of all trivial matters? While he was thinking about this, Qin Chuan asked, I remember that you two seemed to have just entered the source not long ago. What are you going back to Earth for? Lin Zichen, my mother is pregnant with her second child. It seems that she should have given birth now. I want to go back to see my sister. Hearing that the two of them were going back to Earth just for this matter, Qin Chuan said expressionlessly, it's a bit too willful to return to Earth just after entering the source for more than a month. Stay for 3 months before going back. Every transmission of the biological channel consumes a lot of source power. And the source power comes from the source crystal or beast core, or other rare evolutionary resources. They are all exchanged for the lives of compatriots. They can't be wasted like this. You two must stay for at least 3 months before returning to Earth. This is the most basic rule. It was the first time that Lin Zichen heard of such a rule. It was really unexpected. But he didn't get too entangled. He just said I know respectfully and quickly took Shen Qinghan away. Since there is such a rule, then abide by it well and wait for 3 months before returning to Earth. Anyway, it's been almost 2 months. I can go back after staying for more than a month. In the dormitory. On the bed. Shen Qinghan hugged her knees, leaned against the headboard, and said with a bit of loss, I really want to go back to Earth to see my parents now, but the city lord said that I have to stay for at least 3 months before I can go back. It's a long time. It's a bit long. Lin Zichen rubbed Shen Qinghan's body and comforted her, but we have been in the source for almost 2 months. We can go back in more than a month. It will be a quick thing. That's right. Shen Qinghan nodded, then turned his head to look at Lin Zichen beside him, and said with a hint of lust, Lin Zi, I'm so bored, how about doing it? Yeah, let's do it. Lin Zichen said without thinking. There are no mobile phones or computers in the source, and there is an extreme lack of entertainment. In this environment, enhancing the relationship between men and women is basically the best entertainment. I forgot to bring a condom when I came in, and the box in the storage space is almost used up. Lin Zichen took a look at the box of ultra-thin XX condoms in the storage space and found that there were only 2 left, which could not even last today. Shen Qinghan didn't care about it, it's okay, just give birth if you get pregnant. We are only 19, too young. Not young anymore. Consider giving birth in a few years. Okay then. I worked in vain before. Thinking about it, Lin Zichen asked, why didn't you say something so important earlier? I just thought of it. Okay, both of us are stupid. For her, this is what evolution is all about. A few days later. In the dormitory. Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan were sitting on the bed, reading an instruction manual called Origin Forces together. Ever since he heard Fu Zhou say that the origin was divided into 5 regions that day, he had been paying close attention to this and specifically looked for relevant information to browse. Lin Zi, you turned the pages so fast that I felt dizzy. Seeing Lin Zichen flipping through the book and finding an afterimage, basically just glancing at it and turning to the next page, Shen Qinghan couldn't help but complain. She considers herself very smart and has an outstanding memory, but compared with Lin Zichen next to her, she is as weak as a mentally retarded girl with 0 IQ. Then let me read it first, and then you can read it slowly after I finish it. Lin Zichen said casually while flipping through the book quickly. With the heavenly wisdom root, he could read 10 lines at a glance, and he had a photographic memory, which really couldn't take care of Shen Qinghan's reading speed. I can only be a straight man and read it myself first, then let Shen Qinghan read it slowly. About 2 minutes later. Lin Zichen read the entire power of the origin and gained a deeper understanding of the origin. The source area is divided into 5 regions, namely the Central Region, the Eastern Region, the Western Region, the Southern Region, and the Northern Region. The Central Territory is a huge ruin with a large number of ruins inside, inheriting the oldest civilization in the origin. It is a forbidden area that is open regularly. Most of the mythical creatures in the origin were born in the Middle Territory. The Eastern Region is an endless plain with many seas and lakes, and is home to countless mysterious and powerful aquatic creatures. The Western Region is an extremely desolate land, lifeless and filled with many underworld creatures with strange life forms. The Southern Territory is a world of mountains and forests, extremely rich in evolutionary resources, and home to the most powerful land creatures. Major forces such as Sun Moon Holy Land and King Kaiyu Ancient Mountain are all located in the Southern Region. The strongholds established by the people on Earth in the Source are all in the Source, because the biological passages connecting the 2 worlds are all in the Southern Region. The Northern Territory is an extremely cold place with a very small number of creatures and few evolutionary resources, so it is not very popular. In addition to the 5 major realms, the Source Land also has a special realm, the Abyss. In every corner of the origin, there may be an abyss. The abyss is a restricted area of life. Even legendary creatures have a narrow escape from death if they enter. It is still full of mystery. No one knows how the abyss appeared or what caused it. Apart from knowing that the abyss is dangerous, it can be said that he knows almost nothing. So, is the enemy of the earth the holy land of the sun and moon? There are also many seas and lakes in the eastern region. Maybe going there can unlock the secrets of the little filthy girl. Well, I have a chance to go to the eastern region. Lin Zichen thought silently. A blink of an eye. More than half a month has passed. There are less than 10 days left before he can return to Earth. Shen Qinghan looked forward to it every day, so that every day seemed like a year, and it felt like time passed very slowly. This morning, it was just dawn. Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan woke up early and sat cross-legged on the bed quietly to attack their acupoints. Most of the other people in the team of alien-level geniuses have gone out of the city to practice and fight to obtain evolutionary resources. Although the 2 of them can become stronger by attacking their acupoints, they also need the support of certain evolutionary resources. The reason why I didn't go out of the city for training was just because I could go back to Earth to visit my parents soon, and I didn't want to delay my return home by going out for training. Soon, several days passed. There is only 1 day left until 3 months of staying in the city. For this reason, Shen Qinghan was so excited that she stayed awake all night and pulled Lin Zichen to have sex with her all night. In all her life, she had never been without contact with her parents for such a long time. There was no contact for 3 whole months, which made her longing for her parents reach a peak that soared into the sky. It's so boring to stay in the dormitory. Why don't you just be lazy today, stop hitting your acupoints, and go for a walk outside to breathe some fresh air? Shen Qinghan suggested in a coquettish voice. Lin Zichen himself was not in the mood to attack his acupoints. He missed his parents at home and was curious about his sister at home, so he and Shen Qinghan left the dormitory and went for a walk outside. The two of them walked aimlessly in the city, chatting without saying a word, and unknowingly reached the city gate. Let's go up to the high wall and have a look. Lin Zichen suggested. Having the eye in the sky, he wanted to stand on the high wall of the city gate and look into the distance to become more familiar with the landscape outside the city. Shen Qinghan smiled and said, "Okay, I just want to go up and enjoy some fresh air." The two hit it off immediately and soon climbed up the high wall of the city gate. Just when the two of them went up, in the stable area outside the city gate, there were 2 figures running desperately towards the city. With the blessing of eye in the sky, Lin Zichen saw these 2 figures for the first time. Very familiar. It was Zhao Qingxian and Zhang Tao who were the former kings of the team. Of these 2 people, one was running wildly and the other was being carried wildly. The one being carried was Zhao Qingxian. Lin Zichen took a closer look and found that Zhao Qingxian had multiple wounds on his body. There were traces of black air on the wound. The black air looked familiar. It was exactly the same as the black air seen on the alien in the Land of Desolation before. Soon, the guards on the high wall saw Zhang Tao and Zhao Qingxian through special lookout props, and immediately opened the city gate to take the two into the city. As soon as he entered the city gate, Zhang Tao was so tired that he sat on the ground and gasped for breath. Zhao Qingxian, who was carried on his back, turned pale and fainted, and his physical condition looked very bad. What happened? A guard captain on duty today went forward to check on the 2 people as soon as possible. Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan also jumped down from the high wall to see what the 2 people had encountered. There are many aliens from the Land of Desolation in the dangerous area outside the city. Zhang Tao kept panting and answered with a very disordered breath. Hearing this, the guard captain's expression suddenly became solemn, and he immediately sent the 2 to the medical department for treatment, and reported the matter to his superiors. Lin Zichen's expression also became solemn. Many aliens from the Land of Destruction appeared in the dangerous area, which is not a good sign. It is possible that the Earth will have more enemies in the future. Soon, it was afternoon. The city lord sent a message that it is not recommended for people with biological levels lower than rare level to leave the city in the near future to avoid unnecessary losses. At night, in the dormitory, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan were free and chatted while doing it on the bed. I don't know how the young man named Zhao Qingxian is now. When he entered the city, his wound was constantly oozing black liquid. It looked like he was seriously injured. Shen Qinghan said with a trembling voice. Lin Zichen replied with a move, it seems that nothing should happen. The self-healing ability of the flesh of rare-level creatures is very strong. As long as he can get timely treatment at the medical department, he will probably recover soon. Lin Ziai, those aliens from the Land of Destruction suddenly appeared in the dangerous area outside the city. What do you think they want to do? Shen Qinghan said a little puzzled. Lin Zichen said casually, I don't know, maybe they are scouting the area and want to capture City No 1. Ah! Shen Qinghan's face changed immediately. Lin Zichen's guess scared her and made her feel very uneasy. If those aliens in the Land of Silence really came to scout the area, then City No. 1 was destined to usher in a war, and there would be countless casualties. Seeing Shen Qinghan's pretty face full of anxiety, Lin Zichen smiled gently, I was just talking nonsense, don't panic. The next day, it was just dawn. Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan, who had stayed in the source for 3 months, left the dormitory with light luggage and returned to Earth through the spacious biological passage. The exit of the biological passage of City No. 1 is located in the military headquarters in Kyoto. After the two came out, they took a military helicopter for nearly half an hour before arriving at Shanghai University, which they had been thinking about. As soon as they got off the plane, they went straight to the family area of the outer campus, eager to see their parents who had not contacted for more than 3 months. The two did not contact their parents at home in advance when they came back this time, thinking of giving their parents who had not seen each other for many days a surprise. Aren't you going back to your own home to see Uncle Ye and Aunt Meng first? In front of the house, Lin Zichen took out the key to open the door. Seeing Shen Qinghan was about to follow him into the house, he couldn't help but look at her and asked this question. Shen Qinghan said with anticipation, no hurry, there is plenty of time to see my parents, I want to see my sister Xing now. I want to see it too. Lin Zichen smiled, then inserted the key into the door lock to open the door, and walked in with Shen Qinghan. Now he has suppressed his five senses to the level of ordinary people, and he doesn't know what is going on in the house now. The reason for doing this is to give himself a surprise. He wants to open a blind box to see what his sister, whom he has never met, looks like. Lin Ziai, I heard the sound of typing from the typing room. Uncle Sheng and Aunt Xin really like to write novels. It's only 8 o'clock in the morning and they have already started typing. Shen Qinghan said with a smile. Lin Zichen also smiled and said, my parents are like this. I asked them to stop writing and enjoy the life of wealth and freedom, but they just can't rest. Shen Qinghan, do you think my sister is sleeping in the room now, or drinking milk in the coding room? She also followed Lin Zichen to reduce her five senses to the level of ordinary people, and could not perceive the specific situation in the room through the wall. Lin Zichen guessed, she should be sleeping in the room. Babies are more sleepy. As soon as the voice fell, a baby girl wearing a diaper and holding a pacifier in her mouth crawled past the two of them. She crawled very fast, like a cockroach, she scurried over in the blink of an eye. Lin Zichen's eyes widened and he was shocked. This baby girl looked just 1 month old, how could she crawl so fast? Is her body holy? P.S. Put the bowl, ask for monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 254 My sister has a mythical appearance. Lin Ziai, is the baby girl who just crawled over their sister Ziying. How can she crawl so fast? She looks like she's only 1 month old. Shen Qinghan was shocked, and her delicate face was full of disbelief. The most amazing genius she had ever seen was Lin Zichen next to her. But when Lin Zichen was a child, he was also several months old before he could crawl fast. How could he be running around the house like a cockroach just after he was 1 month old? What is going on? On the other side, Lin Zichen looked at his sister crawling around the house quickly, and his heart was mixed. He always hoped that his sister was a local, and didn't want his sister to be a time traveler like him. But from the scene in front of him, his sister was probably the time traveler he least wanted. A time traveler with a built-in plug-in. Otherwise, how could he crawl as fast as a cockroach when he was only 1 month old? This is not a baby at all. Just when Lin Zichen was thinking about this in his heart, the baby girl in diapers, with chubby little hands and feet, quickly crawled from the front balcony to the living room as if she had motors installed. When she was about to crawl over, she saw Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan standing in the living room. She was stunned for a moment, and stopped in her place, looking at the two with her big watery eyes. She watched. The next second, she suddenly frowned slightly, opened her mouth and burst into tears. Wow 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 wow! The moment the crying sounded, there was an anxious movement in the coding room. Soon, Lin Yanzheng and Zhang Wangzhen hurriedly pushed the door and walked out. Baby, what's wrong? Hey, when did you two come back? Zhang Wangzhen said, and saw Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan standing in the living room. She was stunned for a moment, and then her face was full of surprise and smile. For a moment, she even forgot her daughter crying on the ground. She forgot her daughter, but her daughter didn't forget her. Wow 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 wow! Seeing Zhang Wangzhen coming out, the baby girl quickly crawled over while crying, hugged Zhang Wangzhen's calf and cried louder and louder, making the ears of the people present buzz. She cried so hard. Is this really a baby who has just turned 1 month old? Lin Zichen was particularly shocked. Okay, baby, don't cry. This is your brother Chen and your sister Han. They are all family members as close as your parents. Zhang Wangzhen reached out and held the baby girl in her arms, patting her back with her hands and soothing her softly. With Zhang Wangzhen's skilled soothing, the baby girl soon stopped crying, but just lay on Zhang Wangzhen's shoulder with tears in her eyes. Shen Qinghan walked over, looked at the baby girl in Zhang Wangzhen's arms curiously, and asked. Aunt Xin, Sister Ziying just crawled so fast in the living room. She looked like she was only 1 month old. How did she do that? I don't know. Dean Lu and Principal Yuan brought people to do a physical examination of the baby half a month ago. They said that the baby was born with a holy body, different from ordinary people, and an unprecedented pure-blooded genius. Zhang Wangzhen replied. After hearing the answer from his mother, Lin Zichen was a little confused. Is my sister so arrogant? She doesn't even pretend in front of outsiders, but directly exposes all her talents. Could it be, my sister is not a time traveler, but a local? She is simply born with a strong physical talent? It's not the same as me, a cheater? The more Lin Zichen thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. Because he found that his sister's expression and dynamics were very consistent with a 1-month-old baby. There was no feeling of an adult soul, which was completely different from his childhood. Come, son, hug your sister. She's so cute and chubby. Zhang Wangzhen walked to Lin Zichen and handed the baby girl in her arms to him, asking him to hug her. Lin Zichen looked at the baby girl in diapers who had just turned 1 month old, as if he had returned to the time when he first saw Shen Qinghan 19 years ago, with an inexplicable sense of nostalgia. Soon, he reached out to take the baby girl, hugged her and smiled softly, "Ying, I'm your brother, remember what I look like, and don't cry when you see me in the future." While saying this, he dispersed his mental power to sense the baby girl's body. After a sense, he was shocked to find that the blood and chi strength in the baby girl's body was comparable to that of a 3-year-old child with normal development. At only 1 month old, the blood and chi strength was equivalent to that of other people's 3-year-olds. This physical talent is too exaggerated. It's incredible. You can totally shout out that sentence, "My sister has a mythical appearance." Suddenly, the baby girl frowned and looked uncomfortable, as if she was feeling unwell. Lin Zichen was still wondering what happened to his sister. The next second, there was a burst of puff 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 sounds. The baby girl's diaper suddenly emitted a not-so-pleasant smell. Lin Zichen, who smelled the smell, immediately changed his face. "Damn! My sister pooped in her pants. This guy must be a local. Which time traveler would poop in his pants when he crawled as fast as a cockroach? Why is the baby having diarrhea again? Is there something wrong with her digestive system? I have to take her to check again in the afternoon." Zhang Wangzhen took the baby girl back from Lin Zichen's arms, and said with a frown while skillfully taking off the baby girl's diaper. Lin Zichen was puzzled. "Mom, does my sister often have diarrhea?" Without waiting for Zhang Wangzhen to answer, Lin Yan's hung on the side said, "She often has diarrhea, but I think it should be nothing, it's just that your mother is too worried. Your sister doesn't drink milk now. Every meal is the exotic beast meat and exotic fruits specially provided by Yuan Xiao. It's normal for her to have diarrhea if she can't absorb the nutrition. I'm not talking nonsense. Yuan Xiao said a few days ago that this is normal." Zhang Wangzhen rolled her eyes at Lin Yan's hung in dissatisfaction and said unhappily, "There are always unexpected things. You are too careless as a father. I really can't let you take care of my daughter. I still have to take care of her myself." Lin Zichen ignored his parents' quarrel and stared at his sister who was sucking her thumb. The more he looked, the more he felt that his sister was a local. Cry when she says to cry. Stop when she says to stop. Shit in the pants. Also likes to eat her own fingers. This baby's attributes are directly full. Source: Southern region. In a huge flower palace, a man with dark hair all over his body stood with his hands behind his back in front of a very beautiful woman, and said in a dead voice, "Fairy Thorn, would you consider cooperating with us in the Land of Silence and launching a surprise attack on City Number 1 in half a month to take back the biological passage there? I am willing to do so, but unfortunately, I can't make the decision on this matter." The Thorn Flower Fairy, who was wearing revealing clothes, said with a delicate smile. The man asked, "Who can make the decision then?" The Thorn Flower Fairy posed with enchanting orchid fingers and said charmingly, "Of course it is the Great Flower God. P.S. I can only update this much today. I went to remove my wisdom teeth in the afternoon. It was a horizontal impacted wisdom tooth. It took almost 2 hours to remove it. The trauma was a bit serious and my face was swollen. Now I am dizzy with pain." End of this chapter. Chapter 255. It's time to have a baby. In the evening, in the living room, the 7 people from the 2 families sat together for dinner, and the atmosphere was joyful. "How long can you 2 stay this time?" Zhang Wangzhen asked softly while picking up food for Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan's eyes were slightly bent, and her smile was particularly sweet. "Probably stay for half a month." "That's good." Zhang Wangzhen smiled, her eyes full of pampering. "Today is October 6th, and there is still a week before your 20th birthday. I will be able to celebrate for you." While the biological mother and the fiancé were chatting, Lin Zichen, who was on the side, kept looking at his sister in the arms of his biological mother. Lin Zichen, who had just turned 1 month old, was sitting on Zhang Wangzhen's thigh with a well-behaved face, holding a big bird leg in her little hand and chewing it happily. That was the thigh meat of the violent eagle. The meat was very tight, and even adults could hardly chew it. However, Lin Zichen, who was only a little bit old, was able to chew the bird's legs with her tiny front teeth. This was really amazing. In the following days, in addition to impacting the acupoints, enhancing the relationship with Shen Qinghan in bed, and accompanying his parents, Lin Zichen spent the rest of his time observing his sister Lin Zichen. Through these days of observation, he can be 100% sure that this sister is a local and there is no possibility of a time traveler. This sister cries at least 10 times a day and poops and pees in her pants at any time, just like a normal baby. The only difference is that the physical strength of this sister is seriously inconsistent with her age. She is almost learning to walk at just over a month old, which is very amazing. After dinner, Shen Qinghan picked up Lin Zichen, kissed her chubby little round face, and said with a smile, "Ying has big, watery eyes. She will definitely be very beautiful when she grows up, just like your brother Chen, who is a popular person." Lin Zichen said, Ying is a girl. If she wants to be like someone, she should be like you. I am a man. While teasing Lin Zichen, Shen Qinghan said disapprovingly, it's different. I have never been a popular person. I was hated a lot when I was in school. You are a popular person. From childhood to adulthood, whether male or female, everyone likes you. Ying's physical talent is so strong. When she goes to school, she will definitely be able to crush her peers like you did before. No one dares to hate her, but only like her. This is true, and Lin Zichen did not refute it. If a person is only good-looking and not outstanding in other aspects, then there will definitely be people who envy her and hate her. But if this person is not only good-looking, but also has overwhelming strength, then everyone will like her and will not be jealous at all. Because they are not from the same world, they have no right to be jealous. Sister Ying's little hands are so delicate, and her nails are long, as beautiful as yours. Shen Qinghan picked up Lin Ziying's little hand, gently rubbed her palm, and said to Lin Zichen beside him. As soon as she finished speaking, Lin Ziying didn't know whether she felt itchy or something, and suddenly grabbed Shen Qinghan's index finger and held it tightly. Sister is so strong, being held by her feels like being clamped by a pair of pliers. After feeling Lin Ziying's strength, Shen Qinghan's pretty face was surprised. Lin Zichen was not surprised. He had already sensed the strength of the blood and qi in Sister Lin Ziying's body. It was as high as that of a child of a few years old. It would be strange if she was not strong. Ah, sister peed on me. Shen Qinghan suddenly shouted, feeling a little overwhelmed for a while, not knowing how to deal with it. Lin Zichen smiled, you were like this when you were a kid, you would wet your pants all the time. Oh, stop laughing at me, go get the mop and clean the floor. Shen Qinghan said unhappily. Lin Zichen was speechless, why do you need a mop? Have you forgotten that you play with water? Yes, I actually forgot that. As he spoke, Shen Qinghan suddenly had an idea and suspended all the liquid that Lin Ziying urinated, and flew it to the potted plants on the balcony to give them some pure natural fertilizer. Over on the sofa, the parents of both families looked at the scene in front of them, and a smile appeared on their faces. The picture of Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan taking care of Lin Ziying together looked like a young family of three, filled with a happy atmosphere. After her birthday next week, Hanan will be 20 years old, and she will be of legal age for marriage. Zhang Wangzhen looked at Shen Qinghan in front of her, with an anti-smile on her face. Lin Yanzheng said while eating melon seeds, it's useless for Hanan to reach the legal age for marriage. Our son will not be old enough to get married until 2 years later. Yes, you know. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Zhang Wangzhen rolled her eyes at Lin Yanzheng beside her, thinking that her husband's words were really disappointing. Su Meng on the opposite side smiled, the legal age for marriage is not a problem. Our two families can hold a wedding banquet first, get the 2 children married, and then get the marriage certificate when they reach the age later. When Shen Jianyi heard this, he waved his hand and said, there is no rush for these 2 years. Wait until you are 22 years old to get married. Anyway, the two of us are already tied together. You are not in a hurry, but I am. Su Meng glared at Shen Jianyi, complaining in her heart that the men of the two families are the same, which is really disappointing. A few days later, October 14th. This day is Shen Qinghan's birthday, and Lin Zichen's birthday was yesterday. According to convention, the two have celebrated their birthdays together since childhood, and this year it happened to be Shen Qinghan's turn to celebrate her birthday together. In the evening, the two families celebrated in the living room. Yuan Dongji, Lu Juanmu, Song Yuan, and Li Chuxin all came to participate. They were invited by Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan respectively. At the birthday party, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan were exchanging gifts with each other as in previous years. The former gave the latter a silk skirt that she had sewn by herself. The workmanship was far superior to any top designer in the world. Li Chuxin, who was the same age, was full of envy. The latter gave the former a painting. There were 20 pairs of men and women in the painting, corresponding to every year when the two grew up together. It was a special waist. Under everyone's encouragement, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan hugged and kissed each other, leaving a memorable photo. After the birthday party, Lu Juanmu came over with a glass of red wine and asked Lin Zichen, Zichen, you have been in the source for 3 whole months. Do you have any news about the pavilion master? As soon as this was said, Yuan Dongji, Song Yuan, and Li Chuxin all looked over and were very concerned about this issue. Lin Zichen teased his sister in his arms and answered calmly, the news I got is that the pavilion master refined many strange beasts down there and then broke into a ruin. What ruins? Lu Juanmu is an archaeologist who has spent nearly half his life studying ruins and is very interested in the ruins mentioned by Lin Zichen. Lin Zichen put his sister down and let her crawl around, saying, I don't know the details. I got this news from the mayor of city number 1, and that's all he told me. So. Lu Juanmu nodded and didn't ask any more questions. At this time, Yuan Dongji asked, how did you two get along with Kyungsu in the source land? Lin Zichen, we haven't gotten along much. After hearing this, Yuan Dongji expressed his understanding, that child is a bit withdrawn, and almost no one can get along with her. After that, she asked again, Kyungsu can't remember you too. Shen Qinghan replied, well, senior sister can't remember me and Lin Ziyi at all, but she said that our names sounded a little familiar. So. Yuan Dongji and Lu Juanmu nodded and said the same thing just now, and they looked like a couple. Lin Zichen looked at Yuan Dongji and asked, by the way, Principal Yuan, how is the security on Earth now? Is it better than before? Qi Qingmo almost uprooted the Shenzi sect before entering the source land. Without the Shenzi sect, the situation on Earth should be much more stable. That's what Lin Zichen thought. And Yuan Dongji's answer next was indeed as he thought. Yuan Dongji said calmly, since your pavilion master killed the high-ranking members of the Divine Planting sect, there are fewer people on Earth now, and the situation has stabilized a lot. It is almost impossible to see people making trouble. That's good. Lin Zichen felt much more at ease instantly. In the past 3 months, he was most worried about his parents at home. Now, after hearing what Yuan Dongji said, he felt relieved immediately. Zichen, how is the situation at the source? This time it was Yuan Dongji's turn to ask questions. She and Lin Zichen basically asked each other questions and exchanged information about the Earth and the source. Lin Zichen shook his head, although there was no major war, the situation doesn't look good. Yuan Dongji, what do you mean? Lin Zichen explained, a few days before Hanan and I returned to Earth, many aliens from the Land of Desolation appeared in the dangerous area outside City No. 1, and some people who went out of the city for training were attacked by these aliens. Aliens from the Land of Desolation. Yuan Dongji looked solemn and puzzled, isn't the Land of Desolation at the edge of the western region? Why did it come to the southern region for no reason? What western region and southern region? What are these two people talking about? Lu Juanmu, Song Yuan, and Li Chuxin were a little confused. The three didn't know much about the source, and they couldn't understand the conversation between Lin Zichen and Yuan Dongji about the source. Could it be that the aliens from the Land of Desolation have joined forces with the alien plants from the Sun and Moon Holy Land? Yuan Dongji thought for a moment and thought of such a guess. Lin Zichen said he didn't know. He didn't know the source as well as Yuan Dongji, so it was difficult for him to give any reasonable guesses. In a blink of an eye, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan have been on Earth for half a month. It is time for them to return to their origin and shine. The parents of the two families, as well as the ignorant Lin Zieng, got up early in the morning to see them off. Seeing her brother and sister leaving, 2-month-old Lin Zieng burst into tears. In the past half-month, she had a good time with these two older brothers and sisters who were almost 20 years older than her, and she was reluctant to let them leave. Ying Ying, don't cry. Brother and sister will come back to see you soon and bring you a lot of delicious food. Shen Qinghan held Lin Zieng's little hand and comforted her softly. Lin Zieng didn't understand, so she just roared like a dragon and cried loudly. Zhang Wangzhen gently rocked her daughter in her arms and said to Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan, your sister is only 2 months old now, and she can't understand your comfort. Why don't you two have a baby soon, so that your sister can have a playmate? Hearing this, Lin Zichen couldn't help but twitch his mouth slightly. He thought that after Zhang Wangzhen gave birth to her second child, she would not urge him and Shen Qinghan to have a baby. Now it seems that he was thinking too much. Parents who have become financially independent no longer need to work hard for a living. Now they are free every day. They must be thinking about having children and grandchildren. The more the better. Yes, Hanan, why don't you and Linza have a baby soon? Your father and I want to hold our grandchildren. Su Meng looked at Shen Qinghan and said. Shen Qinghan didn't know how to answer, and silently looked at Lin Zichen beside her. She also wanted to have a baby soon, but it depended on Lin Zichen. She was weak and couldn't decide at all. Facing the gazes of several people, Lin Zichen felt a lot of pressure. Finally, he said, Mom and Dad, I'm leaving. After that, he quickly took Shen Qinghan's hand and took her to the administrative building of the inner campus. He really didn't want to have a baby now. His parents' urging made him a little overwhelmed, so he could only run away. Lindsay, when do you want to have a baby? On the way to the administrative building, Shen Qinghan hesitated for a while before asking this question. Lin Zichen asked her, do you want to have a baby? Yes, I do. Shen Qinghan nodded. Seeing that she said she wanted to, Lin Zichen thought for a while and said, after my 22nd birthday, let's get the marriage certificate, and then we'll have the baby. Shen Qinghan smiled, okay. She dreamed of having a baby for Lin Zichen. Now that she got a definite answer from Lin Zichen, it was hard not to be happy. Maybe I'll wake up with a smile tonight. Soon. The two climbed onto the rooftop of the administrative building. When it was 8 o'clock in the morning, there was a roar of a helicopter in the sky on time. Seeing the helicopter coming, Lin Zichen picked up Shen Qinghan and jumped into the helicopter cabin. Not long after, the two arrived at the military headquarters in Kyoto. Through the long biological passage, the two returned to the source after half a month. This time, the two did not feel uncomfortable like when they first came. After 3 months of adaptation, both of them are now basically immune to the rejection of the boundary force, and are as free as fish in water. Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan walked to the dormitory to take out a bunch of daily necessities brought from home so as not to occupy the storage space. On the way to the dormitory, Lin Zichen noticed that the environment in the city had changed significantly. There were more guards on the high walls of the city gate. At the same time, the atmosphere in the city was a bit depressing, with an inexplicable sense of heaviness. Did something happen? With this question, Lin Zichen deliberately found a guard who was passing by and asked, "Brother, did something happen in the city?" The guard was in a hurry and didn't want to stop and waste time. But seeing that the person asking the question was Lin Zichen, the most popular super genius in the city, he stopped and said with a wry smile. "In the half-month since you returned to Earth, the aliens in the Land of Silence and the Sun and Moon Holy Land jointly attacked the city, and many people died. Now, the dangerous area outside the city has been completely occupied by the Land of Silence and the Sun and Moon Holy Land. The situation is very bad. The city was attacked? And many people died?" Lin Zichen was very surprised. He didn't expect that such a big thing would happen in the city after only being away for half a month. P.S. Putting out bowls, asking for monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 256 City Defense Battle. The war is about to begin. In the dormitory. After learning about the situation in the city, Lin Zichen's brows were furrowed and he couldn't relax. The Land of Destruction and the Sun and Moon Holy Land joined forces to attack City No. 1, causing heavy casualties. 2 genius members of the alien level, Nangang Liuyun and Qian Yifei died. Lin Zichen had an impression of these 2 people. They were the opponents he met when he first entered the source to participate in the test. Unexpectedly, these 2 people died suddenly. In addition, several epic-level strongmen and dozens of rare-level strongmen were sacrificed, and the losses were very heavy. The source is really full of dangers. No matter how talented or powerful you are, you may fall. Because there are too many powerful creatures in the source. The overall level of these creatures is far superior to that of Earthlings, and they are full of threats to Earthlings. Now, the aliens in the Land of Destruction and the alien plants in the Sun and Moon Holy Land have completely occupied the dangerous areas of the city. This means that people in the city can no longer go out for training, and the way to obtain evolutionary resources is completely blocked. If I can't get evolutionary resources, what's the point of me going to the source? Or, apply for a change of city? However, even the number 1 city with the strongest overall strength has been attacked, so the situation in other cities will probably be worse. Lin Zichen was getting more and more annoyed the more he thought about it. Without sufficient evolutionary resources, no matter how high the evolutionary talent is, it will be in vain and can't grow at all. Shen Qinghan, who had just finished taking a shower, saw Lin Zichen frowning, climbed onto the bed sensibly, hugged his neck and kissed him, and said softly, "Do you want to relax? Just lie down, I'll help you relax. It's comfortable." She didn't know how to comfort Lin Zichen with a sad face with words, so she could only try to use the most primitive way to help him release the pressure in his heart. Lin Zichen didn't say anything, and lay down silently to accept Shen Qinghan's service. They are an old couple, and they have long been accustomed to it. There is no need to say more words of thanks, it will seem very awkward. Half an hour later, Lin Zichen left the dormitory with Shen Qinghan, looking refreshed, and walked towards the city gate. He wanted to climb the high wall and look at the dangerous area with the help of Eye of the Sky. See what the situation is there now. Soon, the two climbed the high wall of the city gate. Shen Qinghan did not have Eye of the Sky, and his vision could only see thousands of meters away at most, and he could not see the situation in the dangerous area 50 miles away. At this time, he just stood quietly by the side and blew the wind, accompanying Lin Zichen. Lin Zichen activated Higher Spirit with an idea, raising his mental strength to the highest, and then activated Eye of the Sky in the same way, expanding his vision to the dangerous area 50 miles away. Then, a large area of shocking thorn forest came into view. These thorns covered with sharp thorns, all like thick poisonous snakes, tightly wrapped around the towering trees that reached the sky, exuding a cold breath. Just by looking from a distance, one can feel an invisible sense of oppression. Expand the field of vision further. Through the dense branches and leaves, Lin Zichen saw a large number of huge flower buds in the center of the thorn forest. These giant flower buds stand alone on the ground like fungi, growing very densely. The surface of the flower buds is covered with wriggling blood vessels, as if there are some terrifying creatures inside. He observed for a few minutes. Lin Zichen saw one of the flower buds slowly bloom, revealing a charming woman with a graceful figure and only a few leaves hanging on her body. Then, he saw a man with a thick black hair lingering all over his body, entering the flower bud and entangled with the charming woman. Lin Zichen wanted to see more. Suddenly, the man and woman in the flower buds 50 miles away turned their heads to look at him at the same time. Before he could react, a tingling pain quickly swept through his eyes, causing him to close his eyes with a hiss and tears oozing out. Just a moment ago, he felt that his eyes were illuminated by strong light, and now his vision was dark and he couldn't see anything. Lin Ziai, what's wrong? Seeing Lin Zichen suddenly lower his head and rub his eyes, looking very uncomfortable, Shen Qinghan hurriedly asked with concern. At this time, Lin Zichen's eyes were bleeding and burning, but he kept his hands to prevent Shen Qinghan from seeing it, and said calmly. It's okay, just relax for a while. He didn't lie, it really took a while to relax. Under the effect of quick self-healing, his injured eyes quickly recovered as good as new, and there was no sign of injury. What happened just now? How can my eyes be injured just by looking at each other? This is 50 miles away. How did those two do it? Lin Zichen was secretly shocked and felt a little scared for the first time. There are too many strong people in the source land, which makes him feel deeply that he is just an ant. An insignificant ant that could be crushed to death at any time. No, I must become stronger as soon as possible and gain enough self-protection power. I can't evolve slowly like before. Lin Zichen thought silently in his heart. In a dangerous area 50 miles outside the city. In the deepest part. In a huge flower bud. The thorn flower fairy looked at the man on her body and asked in confusion, what happened just now? The mental strength of that earthling is only at a rare level. How could he spy on us from a distance of 50 miles? And when he was watching me, I felt like I was being watched by a violent eagle. But I didn't find any violent will in his mental power. What is happening? The more the thorn flower fairy talked about it, the more puzzled he became. He felt that this matter was beyond his scope of knowledge. The man who was full of black energy felt equally puzzled by this. He thought for a while and said, it must be with the help of some tools. People on Earth are best at making all kinds of imaginative tools. After hearing his analysis, the thorn fairy no longer dwelled on the matter, and instead smiled and said, that human creature is only at the rare level, but he dares to peek at us at the legendary level. He is probably blind now. Don't worry about that person. Hurry up and let me enjoy the taste of the flower fairy. The man with a dark aura urged. He had long heard that the flower fairy in the Sun and Moon Holy Land was very beautiful, and he had always wanted to find an opportunity to kiss her. I finally got the chance today and I must experience it. The thorn flower fairy pushed away the man's pressed body and said with some dissatisfaction, what's the rush? Don't forget the things you promised me. Don't worry, I never break my promise. As the man spoke, he pressed his body down again, and said with a hint of silence in his voice, don't worry, what I promised you will be delivered to you when city number 1 is captured. It better be this way. After saying this, the thorn flower fairy quickly picked off the leaves on her body and became entwined with the man on her body in the bud. During this period, the thorn flower fairy asked, approximately when can we fully attack city no 1? It's not urgent. The man said, what we need to do now is to surround city number 1 so that the people inside can't get out, consume their resources, and wait until they have run out of ammunition and food before sending troops to attack. A blink of an eye. Several days passed. In the past few days, the alien plants in the dangerous area outside the city are constantly spreading and have entered the periphery of the stable area, posing a threat to city number 1. Regarding this matter, city leaders are holding meetings almost every day to discuss countermeasures. This morning, in the conference room, City Lord Qin Chuan looked around at the crowd and said in an unwavering voice, what do you think of the increasing pressure on the holy land of the Sun and Moon and the land of Nirvana? Deputy City Lord Shang Guan Yuehua, let's observe first. We suffered heavy losses in the last war and it will take some time to recover. It is not appropriate for a war to happen. When Bai Wubian, who is also the Deputy City Lord, heard this, he immediately expressed his disapproval, it's already this time, what's the point of observing? This is called sitting and waiting for death. If we leave it alone and allow the alien plants to spread, the forest on the right side of the city and the lake on the left will sooner or later be occupied by the holy land of the Sun and Moon and the land of Nirvana. Those two places are our city's main sources of daily resources. Once captured, our city will be completely destroyed. We must take advantage of the home field advantage to fight against the alien plant before it has completely spread. Otherwise, when alien plants grow outside the city, our chances of winning will only be even lower. Bai Wubian spoke logically and convincingly to many people present. In response, everyone expressed their support for this decision, one after another saying, City Lord Bai is right. We have to take advantage of the home field advantage. We still have to go out and fight against the invasion of the Sun and Moon Holy Land and the land of Nirvana, otherwise we will just sit back and wait for death. I also support City Lord Bai's point of view. Shangguan City Lord, you are too conservative and can't see the current situation clearly. These people who were the first to speak out in support were all Bai Wubian's confidants. While supporting him, he also did not forget to belittle Shang Guanyuehua and reduce his credibility in the hearts of other leaders. Qin Shuan can't be the city leader for a few more years and will soon be transferred to a higher position. At that time, Shang Guanyuehua and Bai Wubian will compete for the position of City Lord No. 1. The former represents conservatives. The latter represents the radicals. Under the attack of Bai Wubian's camp, people from Shang Guanyuehua's side also fought back one after another. I have the nerve to say that the Lord of Shangguan City is being conservative. If we had been more conservative last time and didn't start the war blindly, would our losses have been so heavy? Indeed, being too aggressive without preparation will only make the situation more serious. City Lord Bai, I feel that now is really not the right time to start a war. After Shang Guanyuehua's camp counterattacked, Bai Wubian's camp counterattacked again. That's wrong. If we had chosen to avoid fighting last time, the occupied area now would not only be a dangerous area 50 miles away, but the stable area outside the city gate may have also been occupied. That's right, at best it sounds conservative, at worst it sounds cowardly. Since we are in the origin, we should be prepared to die in battle one day. How can we cower and beg to survive? Who are you saying to be a coward? Who are you to say that you are timid? Mr. Chen, please make your words clear to me. What's there to say to these reckless men? City Lord, what do you think about this? After a heated debate, the two camps finally threw the question back to Qin Shuan, the City Lord. Qin Shuan pondered for a moment, and finally, under the gaze of everyone, he slowly said. Everyone, get ready. 3 days later, we will go out of the city to fight against the troops stationed outside the Sun and Moon Holy Land and the Land of Destruction, and defend the stable area. As soon as these words came out, the faces of the two camps present were clearly divided. The people in Bai Wubian's camp all showed joy, and they had seen the bright future of Bai Wubian becoming the city lord in the future. The camp on Shang Guanyuehua's side was a completely opposite scene. Everyone had a cold face and was dissatisfied with Qin Shuan's decision, but they did not dare to speak out against it. In the city lord is the one who has the final say. No one can refute the city lord's words. Unless they don't want to mix any more. Qin Shuan glanced at the people in the two camps and sighed deeply in his heart. At what time, these people are still thinking about competing for the position of city lord. The Sun Moon Holy Land and the Land of Desolation joined forces to attack. This was the biggest crisis that City No. 1 had encountered since its establishment. When the war was about to break out, it was hard to say how many people would survive. The position of the city lord? This might have to be fought for by the lower level. That afternoon, the decision made by Qin Shuan at the meeting announced to the whole city that they would go out of the city to fight in 3 days. After learning the news, some people in the city shouted in frustration, saying that they would avenge their dead brothers and send the enemies of the Sun Moon Holy Land and the Land of Desolation down. On the other hand, some people showed fear and did not dare to go out of the city to fight. Not everyone is not afraid of death. Many people have a great fear of death. It is better to live a miserable life than to die a good death. A vacant lot in the city. Lan Tianbei summoned all 28 extraordinary geniuses in the team to a meeting. Originally there were 30 extraordinary geniuses, but 2 of them died in the last war, Nangang Liuyun and Qian Yifei. Lin Zichen observed the expressions of the crowd and found that everyone was very calm, without a trace of sadness. It seemed that they were accustomed to the death of their companions. It seemed that many people died in the team before. Lin Zichen murmured in his heart. He had a hunch that in the battle 3 days later, more people would die in the team, far more than 2. But he didn't care, as long as Shen Qinghan was fine. His mission in the battle was to kill as many enemies as possible to obtain evolutionary resources and improve his strength while ensuring the safety of himself and Shen Qinghan. In 3 days, we will leave the city and start a war with the enemies of the Sun Moon Holy Land and the Land of Silence. I believe everyone knows this. Lan Tianbei looked at the people in front of him and said in a particularly loud voice, this war is extremely dangerous. Many people are bound to die, and even we cannot avoid it. But fortunately, at the beginning of the war, the leaders in the city will try their best to send away the strong men on the opposite side. At that time, most of the enemies you face will be high-level creatures, and a few will be rare creatures. Relatively speaking, it is still relatively safe. Everyone must cherish this war, take this opportunity to kill more enemies, obtain more resources, and improve their own strength. That's all I want to say, everyone go back and have a good rest. After saying this, Lan Tianbei looked at Lin Zichen who was behind and said, Zichen, you stay for a while, I have something to talk to you alone. P.S. Put the bowl, ask for monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 257 The war is about to begin. The terrifying big hand. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Talk alone? Lin Zichen was a little surprised, and others were equally surprised. No one knew why Lan Tianbei wanted to talk to Lin Zichen alone. However, Lin Zichen didn't think too much. Soon, under the gaze of everyone, he and Lan Tianbei came to a deserted corner to see what he wanted to talk about. Seeing that there was no one around, Lin Zichen became a little wary and was ready to take action. Now he doesn't believe anyone. Lan Tianbei suddenly said that he wanted to talk to him alone. He was worried that Lan Tianbei was raped and wanted to find an opportunity to deal with him one-on-one. Although in the last tree cage incident, he beat Lan Tianbei until he was unable to fight back. However, this does not mean that Lan Tianbei is not his opponent. If Lan Tianbei was raped, it is not impossible for Lan Tianbei to hide his strength. Just as Lin Zichen was thinking about this, Lan Tianbei spoke up. Lan Tianbei said with a very serious expression, Zichen, I have something to ask you, and I hope you can agree to it. Instructor Lan, tell me. Lin Zichen did not agree immediately, wanting to hear what was going on first. Lan Tianbei didn't waste any time and said directly, I think with your strength, you are the most suitable person to be the captain of this alien team. I hope that when the team goes out of town to face the competition, you can take the initiative to stand up and lead the team. At that time, Zhao Qingxian and Zhang Tao may have objections and are unwilling to give up their position as team leader to you. If this is the case, you directly suppress them and violently seize the team's right to speak. Actually, if I speak out, they will give you the say in the team, but I have such a good relationship with them that I am not suitable for this. Having said so much, the truth is that Lan Tianbei doesn't want to be a villain and wants to pass on the job of being a villain to Lin Zichen. Lin Zichen, who realized this, decisively refused without thinking. Instructor Lan, I'm just a newcomer. I'm not familiar with the people in the team, so I can't lead them. I think it's better to leave the job of leading the team to Zhao Qingxian and Zhang Tao. As for me, just be a team member. There is no benefit at all, how could you become such a villain? If Lan Tianbei can give him a strange flower or fruit as compensation, then there is still a possibility of agreeing. Is it possible to not give anything away and just want to have sex for free? Seeing that Lin Zichen refused, Lan Tianbei wanted to persuade, but he didn't know how to speak. In the end, I could only give up on this matter and pretend that nothing happened. After the two returned to the team, Shen Qinghan immediately asked out of curiosity, Lin Ziai, what did the instructor want to talk to you about? We didn't talk about anything. They just wanted me to violently seize the right to speak in the team and let me lead the team in the big battle 3 days later. Lin Zichen said without any concealment. Shen Qinghan just nodded after hearing this and did not ask any more questions. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, it was 3 days later. The day came when we left the city to fight. Early morning. Before dawn. Nearly 10,000 people gathered in the square in front of the city gate. Among these 10,000 people, 90% are advanced creatures. 9% are rare creatures. 0.9999% are epic creatures. Only the remaining 0.0001% are legendary creatures. Today, it's the day when we go out of the city to face the enemies of the Sun and Moon Holy Land and the enemies of the Land of Destruction. Do you have any confidence? Have. On the high wall of the city gate. As the city lord, Qin Chuan was shouting and using his own way to boost morale. When the soldiers below heard this, they all responded enthusiastically. Lin Zichen is also one of these soldiers. But he's not like the others. At this moment, there was no fluctuation in his heart. He just wanted to go out of the city and kill more enemies to obtain evolutionary resources. He had no other thoughts besides that. He felt that maybe it was because he had just come from where he came from, and he had not yet fully integrated into it. To put it simply, there is not enough sense of belonging. On the contrary, Shen Qinghan, who was also new here, was moved when he listened to the inspiring shouts around him. Every emotion in his heart was affected by Qin Chuan's inspiring shouts. This was not her original intention, it was Qin Chuan who used means. Anyone whose strength is lower than the rare level is easily affected and easily infected by the high emotions emanating from the voice. Shangguan City Lord, you lead the team to deal with the powerful men of the Sun and Moon Holy Land. City Lord Bai, you are responsible for leading the team to deal with the strong men in the Land of Annihilation. Relatively speaking, the aliens in the Land of Annihilation are relatively unfamiliar. This task may be very heavy. Everyone else, come to me and fight on the frontal battlefield, and drive out all the enemies that invade the stable area. Qin Chuan stood on the high platform and shouted loudly. The moment the voice fell, the soldiers below immediately responded. In the center of these soldiers, as an instructor, Lan Tianbei stood tall and straight in front of the team, and seriously told the 28 alien-level geniuses in front of him. When the city gate opens later, the 28 of you will form a whole. You must ensure that you act together and don't be too superstitious about heroism. Also, when you encounter a powerful enemy, once you find that you can't defeat it, you should run away as soon as possible. Don't be stubborn. As soon as the city gate opens, you will follow the rare level team led by General Lu and be responsible for dealing with the problems that the team failed to deal with. After listening to these words of Lan Tianyun, all the alien-level geniuses in the team nodded, indicating that they knew what to do. About half an hour later. Open the door. Following Qinchuan's voice, the city gate made of special boulders opened in half instantly. The moment the city gate opened, all the soldiers in the square rushed out in a well-trained manner. Those who can fly fly, those who can't fly run away. In an instant, thousands of people filed out and attacked the enemy dozens of miles away. Not long after the soldiers rushed out of the city gate, Qin Chuan and other leaders, who had the highest combat power in the city, all disappeared on the high wall of the city gate and rushed towards the holy land of the sun and moon and the land of nirvana as quickly as possible. The strong man of the earth. Soon. The originally calm sky suddenly erupted with dazzling light and deafening sounds of fighting. These sounds seemed to contain endless energy, causing the entire dangerous and stable areas to tremble. It was Qin Chuan and other city leaders who started a fight with the enemy's strong men. The beating made the whole world turn pale. Let the soldiers with lower biological levels below be shocked. Lin Zichen was also shocked. In the 20 years since he was born, this is the first time that he has witnessed the battle between legendary powerhouses. He had seen Qi King Mo take action before, but they were all in a crushing style. He had never seen a battle with a strong man who was so inseparable like today. I hope that a legendary powerhouse will fall and be picked up and devoured by me. Lin Zichen fantasized in his heart. Just a moment. The sound of the battle between legendary powerhouses gradually faded away until they completely disappeared. It's not a matter of victory or defeat. Instead, the strong ones tacitly stayed away from the battlefield below to avoid affecting the weak. There are weak people on both sides, so there is no need to consume each other. Both sides are thinking about directly deciding the winner in a strong showdown and winning this battle at the minimum cost. The battlefield below. 10 miles. 20 miles. 30 miles. 40 miles. 43 miles. When the soldiers rushed to the boundary 43 miles away from the city gate, a forest of thorns covering the sky came into view. Reached the center of the battlefield. The junction of the two armies. Kill. A rare 9th level earthly powerhouse sacrificed blood and essence to feed the alien beast genes in his body, and turned into a giant fire dragon covered with scales, spitting hot fireworks from its mouth and blasting towards the thorn forest. The other rare earth powerhouses all displayed their magical powers at the same time, frantically attacking the thorn forest in front of them. Buzz. 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 Only a burst of sound was heard. In the thorn forest, countless thorns covered with spikes shot out and attacked hundreds of rare earth powerhouses. At the same time, a large black mist filled the air, from which appeared a large number of aliens from the land of destruction, following the thorns to kill the rare earth powerhouses ahead. Just for a brief moment. The thorn forest ignited a raging fire, and countless exotic plants were directly buried in the sea of fire and turned into ashes all over the sky. In contrast, many rare-level experts were hit by the burst of thorns and fell directly from the sky. Either dead or seriously injured. But more importantly, he was pulled into the terrifying black fog by the strangers in the land of Nirvana, and his life and death were unknown. This is a scene taking place on the front line of the battlefield. Behind the front line, the alien-level genius team led by Lan Tianbei is constantly accelerating, trying to catch up with the rare earth powerhouses and deal with the problems for these frontline powerhouses. In the team. While Lin Zichen was galloping with the team, with the blessing of Eye in the sky, he was watching the situation at the front line of the battlefield from a distance. When he saw a large number of rare-level creatures falling on the front line, his heart suddenly pounded. For him who possesses the biological attribute of eating the weak and the strong, the corpse of the strong is the best evolutionary resource. He can swallow a large amount of the life source of alien beasts from the corpses of strong men, thereby opening the atlas to obtain corresponding biological skills. Han In, you follow the team closely, I will rush to the front line first. Lin Zichen couldn't resist the temptation. After saying these words to Shen Qinghan on the side, he immediately burst into high altitude and rushed to the front line of the battlefield by flying in the air. Shen Qinghan didn't react at all. When she reacted, Lin Zichen was already high in the sky, and she couldn't even talk to him. Ziai Chen, don't rush so fast. It will be dangerous if you break away from the team. Lan Tianbei discovered that Lin Zichen had left the team and immediately shouted to him to stop him. However, Lin Zichen didn't pay attention at all. He was flying faster and faster in the air. He couldn't wait to reach the front line of the battlefield in the next second and madly devour the life source of the alien beasts in the body of the rare strong man. Damn it, if you have some strength, you won't obey orders. If you're careful, you'll die without even knowing how. Zhao Qingxian, who was in the team, couldn't stand Lin Zichen's arrogant behavior and couldn't help but cursed. The others remained silent, not wanting to offend a genius of Lin Zichen's level. Qingxiu, what are you doing? At this time, Lan Tianbei looked at the side of the team and shouted. Shen Qinghan heard the shout and immediately looked to the side following Lan Tianbei's line of sight. Then, What caught her eyes was that Luo Kyungsu suddenly turned into a large piece of ice flower and rushed to the front line of the battlefield at a speed that was difficult to catch with the naked eye. Is this elementalization? Shen Qing opened her eyes wide. It was the first time she saw someone turn into a large piece of ice flower. This scene was amazing. It was very similar to the superpowers in film and television works. Why? Lin Zichen and Luo Kyungsu's biological levels are not rare, why can their strength be so much stronger than ours? It's disgusting. Seeing that Lin Zichen and Luo Kyungsu had fled far away from the team, the mentality of the genius of the alien level in the team collapsed, and he complained unwillingly. Listening to these complaints, Shen Qinghan felt a little unhappy. This unhappiness was not just because he heard Lin Zichen being scolded by the people in the team. More importantly, it was because Luo Kyungsu also fled far away, and it seemed that Luo Kyungsu and Lin Zichen were a couple. Just when Shen Qinghan felt a little depressed, the originally dry ground suddenly oozed a lot of liquid. These liquids were colorless and tasteless, and they were all the simplest water molecules. Why did the water come out? Shen Qinghan was particularly sensitive to water and discovered the moisture under her feet at the first time. But before she could react to what was going on, the next second, her body melted into a pool of water, seeping into the ground and disappeared. A few seconds later, someone in the team shouted, "Instructor, Shen Qinghan is missing." Hearing this shout, Lan Tianbei immediately looked in the direction where Shen Qinghan was originally. Seeing that there was no one there, he immediately showed disbelief and couldn't understand the scene in front of him. Just a few seconds ago, he still sensed that Shen Qinghan was in the team. How could he disappear just like that? On the other side, Lin Zichen was flying in the air at a high speed, less than a few miles away from the front line. Bang! A dull explosion sounded. A broken arm suddenly flew over from the sky in front. It was a human arm. But it was covered with thick fiery red scales. This was an arm from a gene fusion. Swallow. Lin Zichen did not hesitate for a moment, and directly touched the arm and chose to swallow the life source inside. You swallowed a large amount of life source of Void Flame Dragon / Chapter 258, a rare creature that has attained enlightenment. A bounty offered by the Sun and Moon H. Boom boom boom. The huge hand with a trace of black air grabbed Lin Zichen like a mountain. The huge hand was extremely fast and caught up with the fleeing Lin Zichen in an instant. Lin Zichen knew that he could not escape normally. So he made a quick decision and used the biological attribute digging instinct to escape from underground. There was a sound of earth and rocks crushing. Lin Zichen, who was just on the ground, escaped into the ground in the next second and disappeared completely without a trace. Almost at the same time as he disappeared, the huge hand with a trace of black air suddenly printed on the ground, and the earth and stones flew and a large amount of dust was raised. When the huge hand left, there was a huge palm pit more than 10 meters deep on the ground. The surroundings of the palm pit were covered with a large number of shocking huge cracks. This shows how terrifying the power of this palm is. Once it hits accurately, it is no problem to kill a rare creature. How did you do this? A puzzled voice came from the black fog. As soon as the voice fell, a gloomy man over 3 meters tall walked out of the black fog, looking at the palm pit under his feet with disbelief on his face. To be more precise, he was looking at the bottomless cave in the center of the palm pit. This bottomless cave was just dug out by Lin Zichen with his bare hands. It was dug out in just a thought. The speed was so fast that it was incredible. Deep underground, Lin Zichen was still digging deeper and didn't dare to stop for a moment. Even if danger sense had stopped, he didn't dare to be careless. There were so many strong people in the source land, and no one knew whether these strong people had the means to block danger sense. 100 meters. 200 meters. 300 meters. When the excavation depth reached 1024 meters. I don't know if it was an illusion, Lin Zichen felt like he had dug through something. He wanted to stop and see what happened. But as soon as he stopped, he had no time to observe the surrounding environment. Suddenly, the dry soil in front of him rippled like water, forming a huge vortex that sucked him in. I don't know how long it took. It seemed to be a few seconds. It seemed to be a few minutes. It could also be a few hours. When Lin Zichen opened his eyes again, he found himself in front of a huge palace. This huge palace was soaked in water, but there was no water grass on the ground and walls, as if it had just been flooded. Where is this place? With a hint of curiosity and uneasiness, Lin Zichen continued to radiate his mental power to explore the environment inside the palace. But after exploring for a while, he found nothing. The palace seemed to be wrapped in a huge transparent membrane, blocking his mental power. Just as Lin Zichen was thinking about whether to enter the palace to find out. Creaky. A heavy door opening sounded. The door of the palace opened. Seeing this, Lin Zichen tensed up and prepared to leave immediately if something went wrong. However, to his surprise, when the palace gate opened, a face he was most familiar with walked out, Shen Qinghan. Hanin, Why are you here? Lin Zichen could also transmit voice in the water, and looked at Shen Qinghan in the palace with a puzzled look on his face, wondering why she appeared in this place. Shen Qinghan used the same method to transmit voice in the water and said, I don't know either. I was just running on the battlefield, and suddenly I was pulled in here. Pulled in? Lin Zichen was horrified and asked, who pulled you in? I don't know. Shen Qinghan shook his head and continued, I was running with Instructor Lan and the others, and suddenly I felt water under my feet, and then my eyes went black and I came here. Water under my feet? Lin Zichen is very sensitive to the word water. Shen Qinghan has always been the spokesperson for the word water since birth. He suspected that the reason why Shen Qinghan appeared here might be related to her special physique. Wait, that's not right. The little dirty girl came here because of her special physique. What about me? How did I get to this place? Seeing Lin Zichen's puzzled expression, Shen Qinghan explained as if she could read his mind, I pulled you into this place. The little dirty girl pulled me in? Lin Zichen was surprised and asked quickly, how did you do it? Shen Qinghan replied, I can control anything in the palace. I just saw something similar to a teleportation array, so I tried to see if I could teleport you in, and then I succeeded. These words were said lightly, but when they fell into Lin Zichen's ears, they were particularly shocking. The little dirty girl can actually control this palace? What is her relationship with this palace? Was she the owner of the palace in her previous life? Has a trace of the remnant soul of the palace owner on her body? Has she received the inheritance of the palace owner? For a moment, various possibilities flashed through Lin Zichen's mind, but he was not sure which one it was. He knew it was useless to think about it, so he quickly turned to look at the environment inside the palace. Through the open door, he saw that the palace was very empty, and there were not even a few pieces of furniture. It looked like a new house with just painted walls. Lindsay, come in quickly, don't stand outside and look around, the palace is very safe. Seeing Lin Zichen standing motionless outside, just scanning the environment inside the palace with his eyes, Shen Qinghan, who was at the entrance of the palace, couldn't help but say something. When Lin Zichen heard this, he didn't hesitate and immediately swam to the palace. After entering the palace, Lin Zichen found that the environment inside was even more empty than he imagined. There was really almost nothing. It was like an imperial palace where everyone had disappeared, and it was eerily empty. But what is very special is that the walls of the palace are covered with murals. The contents of the murals are extremely consistent. All are a group of powerful aquatic creatures, kneeling before a mysterious woman lying in a shell. Could this palace be related to the mysterious underwater ruins that the dean had studied before? Lin Zichen thought of this immediately. Thinking about it, he walked towards the wall and carefully looked at the content of each mural. He wanted to find out the identity of the woman in the mural and see if she could match up with the immortal master in some mythological stories. But after looking at it for a long time, I still found nothing. In the forest, swim over there. There is a very strange water plant growing there, and the teleportation circle I just mentioned is also there. Seeing that Lin Zichen's mural was almost done, Shen Qinghan finally spoke about this. After hearing this, Lin Zichen stopped looking at the mural and said to Shen Qinghan, take me there. Good. Shen Qinghan cherished the words like gold and responded. Soon, their bodies were almost completely transformed into water, and they rushed towards a secret room ahead. One is to rely on special physiques to transform into elements. One is to rely on luck of melting water to transform into elements. Each shows his or her special powers. Under the guidance of Shen Qinghan. Just a moment. Lin Zichen came to a secret room. The secret room is also very empty, but there is a teleportation circle glowing with light blue light, and a water plant glowing with purple rime. Lin Zichen was not as interested in the teleportation circle as he was in the water plants. The moment they saw the water plants, all eyes were drawn to it. Because, he saw two purple fruits inside the water plants. They were as big as fists. There was a trace of purple air lingering on the surface of the peel, which looked very extraordinary. Can we pick those two fruits? Lin Zichen looked at Shen Qinghan beside him and asked. Although Shen Qinghan may not be the owner of this palace, Shen Qinghan can control the palace now, so it is definitely right to ask her. It's a pity that Shen Qinghan has a timid personality and doesn't dare to confirm. He just shook his head and said, I don't know. When Lin Zichen saw this, he didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he just had a thought and sucked the two golden fruits on the mysterious water plant into his hand from the air. It was clear that purple energy was lingering on the surface. But the whole fruit looks like a conspicuous and noble golden fruit. Try to feel the energy contained in the pulp. Very exaggerated. It's like a vast ocean with no end in sight. If nothing else, this must be a treasure of heaven and earth with extremely high evolutionary value, a level of heaven and earth treasure that can be greatly evolved by just eating it. I took some time to look at the fruit in my hand. Lin Zichen handed one of the fruits to Shen Qinghan and said, let's eat one each. Good. Shen Qinghan responded. Then, without saying anything more, the two opened their mouths and put the golden fruit in their hands into their mouths. The fruit melts in your mouth and turns into golden warm currents, quickly flowing through every part of Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan's bodies, nourishing every cell. At this moment, both Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan could clearly feel that their bodies were being rapidly strengthened. The acupuncture points that originally required impact to open, now opened on their own one after another. Brain orifice. Heart orifice. Body orifice. It's all on. In just the blink of an eye, the number of acupuncture points opened increased several times. The strength of qi, blood, and spirit in the body has experienced exponential growth. Your biological level has successfully evolved from advanced level 9 to rare level 1 /. Chapter 259, Alien. Ants in front of true geniuses. Buzz. A whistling sound was heard. The thick black fog, covering the sky and the sun, rushed towards Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan. Lin Zichen did not move at all, and his qi and blood burst out with a thought, generating a terrifying qi and blood gale to fight against it. Soon. There was a bang. The two powerful air currents collided fiercely, and a terrifying aftermath broke out. In an instant, the land within a radius of 1 kilometer was affected. The grass and trees broke, and the soil and stones flew. Even some high-level creatures that were closer were blown away and rolled hundreds of meters away. Many powerful people around felt the power of this aftermath, and they all turned their heads to look over at the first time. After about a few seconds, the aftermath subsided and the dust fell to the ground. The thick black air was swallowed by the extremely aggressive qi and blood power, revealing a man who was left with only a skeleton by the qi and blood power, standing on the spot and swaying. A rare level alien from the land of destruction just fell on this battlefield. His face was completely disfigured, and he died with his eyes wide open. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Especially those who knew Lin Zichen. Seeing that Lin Zichen only used a move of blood and qi to kill a rare middle-level alien from the land of destruction, everyone was shocked and doubted their lives. What happened? What on earth is going on? He has only been in the source for less than half a year, why can he have such a strong strength? This is too weird. Everyone was puzzled and couldn't understand how Lin Zichen did this. Lin Zichen ignored the shock of the people around him. He quickly raised his hand to the skeleton in front of him. With a thought, he sucked it into his hand through the air. Swallow. Lin Zichen muttered in his heart. Then, a prompt message flashed in the void. Swallowing failed, there is no alien life source that can be absorbed in the target body. Lin Zichen glanced at the content of the message. Well, I can't devour it, just like last time. Aliens belong to humans, not aliens. They don't have the life essence of aliens in their bodies, so they can't trigger the effect of survival of the fittest. What a pity. It would be great if aliens could also devour. Lin Zichen covets the ability of the aliens in the land of destruction. Apart from anything else, the ability to turn into a black mist that covers the sky and the sun looks very strong. Let's go to the front to touch the corpse. Lin Zichen didn't stay there for long. He took out an energy core from the skeleton of the alien in the land of destruction and quickly said to Shen Qinghan beside him. With survival of the fittest, he now only wants to devour a large amount of alien life essence to further strengthen his strength. By the way, see if he can touch the storage bag or something like that from the corpse. The fight over there is too intense. Would it be a bit dangerous if we rush over? Shen Qinghan is more cautious and doesn't want to take the risk. Lin Zichen disagreed, it's okay. With my current strength, I'll be fine as long as I don't encounter epic creatures. Shen Qinghan nodded and said, let's go. She chose to trust Lin Zichen and believed that he would not let her fall into danger. The front line of the battlefield. Hundreds of rare-level masters fought frantically, causing the sky and the earth to change color, triggering various natural disasters. Flood. Sandstorm. Land subsidence. Ice and snow. Flames filled the air. These natural disasters in our perception are all the work of rare-level masters. The masters rely on their ability to control elements to turn the entire battlefield into a terrifying doomsday. As soon as Lin Zichen approached these disasters, prompt messages kept popping up in the void. You are experiencing a flood, you have successfully survived the flood, and the progress of the achievement of survival of the fittest is +1. You are experiencing a sandstorm, you have successfully survived the sandstorm, and the progress of the achievement of survival of the fittest is +1. You are experiencing a landslide, you have successfully survived the landslide, and the progress of the achievement of survival of the fittest is +1. Cumulative number of survivals, 35/100. As prompts popped up one after another. Soon, Lin Zichen was pleasantly surprised to find that his progress of the achievement of survival of the fittest had soared to more than half. At this rate of improvement, it won't take long to complete this achievement task and obtain the long-awaited biological attribute survival of the fittest. Lin Zichen was slightly excited about this. After calming down a little, Lin Zichen took Shen Qinghan to continue to go deep into the front line of the battlefield, constantly devouring any corpses encountered along the way. You devoured a large amount of the life essence of the hot poison magic frog and gained the biological attribute hot poison /. Chapter 260 Desperate Situation. Weird Cage. Boom. A deafening explosion sounded. The fierce blood and chi force accurately hit the big hand that stretched out from the black fog. In an instant, the black hand was blown to pieces and turned into black rain that fell all over the ground. Who? A shout came from the black fog, enduring the severe pain. Before the words fell. The next second, a bright red stream of light flashed, and under the gaze of Lan Tianbei and others, it rushed into the thick black fog at a high speed. Then it took only 2 seconds. The thick black fog began to dissipate and fade, revealing a corpse with a wide chest. It was the corpse of a strange person from the land of destruction. Behind the corpse, a familiar figure was hovering, Lin Zichen. Seeing that it was Lin Zichen who easily killed the strange person from the land of destruction in the black fog, Lan Tianbei and others below were all stunned in place, with unbelievable expressions on their faces. The dead alien from the land of destruction had a biological level as high as the rare 4th level. He could single-handedly suppress an entire team of alien-level geniuses, including the instructor. They were beaten so hard that they had no power to fight back and could only sit and wait for death, dying slowly. However, such an almost invincible alien warrior was killed in a blink of an eye by Lin Zichen, who had been in the team for less than half a year. This scene was too shocking. It was so shocking that it was a little unreal. Is this Lin Zichen, really an earthling? Lan Tianbei stared blankly at Lin Zichen in the sky, his face full of doubts about life. Others were the same, and they all suspected that Lin Zichen was not an earthling. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain why Lin Zichen's strength was so abnormal. Puff. In the sky, Lin Zichen slowly pulled his hand out of the corpse in front of him and brought out a source crystal that was slightly larger than his fist. This source crystal alone was worth at least thousands of contribution points. And he harvested nearly 10 source crystals like this in this trip. After conversion, almost 10,000 contribution points can be exchanged for 10 rare-level exotic fruits in the city's warehouse. The premise is that this battle must be won and city number 1 is not captured. Otherwise, everything is empty talk. Soon. Lin Zichen slowly fell down under the gaze of everyone and landed next to Shen Qinghan. Lin Zichen, what is your current strength? Zhao Qingxian asked immediately, very curious about this. Although it would be offensive to ask this, he really wanted to know the answer in his heart. Rare level. Lin Zichen gave a vague answer. Strength is a secret, a trump card, and it is impossible to tell others. It's good enough that he didn't curse. Let's go. Lin Zichen didn't mean to stay, and turned his head to Shen Qinghan on the side. He just wanted to touch the corpse more now. He didn't want to waste a second. If he missed this battle that could obtain a large amount of evolutionary resources, he didn't know when he would have to wait for the next one. We must seize this opportunity, obtain a large number of evolutionary resources in one wave, and soar directly into the sky. Ziai Chen, wait a minute. Seeing Lin Zichen was about to leave, Lan Tianbei, who was in charge of the team, hurried forward and shouted, we are a whole, it is better to act together, it is not good to be a lone wolf. Lin Zichen is very strong, it is a pity to be a lone wolf. Lan Tianbei hopes that Lin Zichen can stay and lead the team. The growth of the whole team is definitely much better than the growth of one person. Moreover, the ability to lead a team is a very important attribute. Now the earth is at a disadvantage. If you want to break out of the siege of the source, you must unite as one. Being a lone wolf will only lead the earth to destruction. Seeing Lan Tianbei say this, the others also advised. Yes, Lin Zichen, there is strength in numbers. Once you encounter any difficult problems, it is easier to solve them if everyone thinks together. The battlefield is too dangerous. One more teammate means more protection. It is dangerous to be a lone wolf. It is easy to fall into a situation of isolation and helplessness. It is better to form a team with many people. The people who said these words actually wanted to cling to Lin Zichen's thighs. Not many of them were going for strength in numbers. After all, no matter how many ants there are, they can't help the elephant. They just saw Lin Zichen's strength. He is much stronger than Lan Tianbei, who is the instructor. If Lin Zichen can be responsible for leading the team, the next journey will definitely be much safer. Everyone wants to be safer. It is not easy to live, and no one wants to die. Especially geniuses with various privileges, they don't want to die even more. Based on this point, as long as it can improve their survival rate, face is empty. It is not impossible to even be a dog for the boss. A living genius is called a genius, and a dead genius is called a dead waste. No, I'm used to acting with a small group of people. Faced with the persuasion of the crowd, Lin Zichen refused without thinking. He doesn't need a burden. Unless this burden is Shen Qinghan. Let's go, Han in. Lin Zichen said to Shen Qinghan beside him again. The moment he finished speaking, he tapped the ground with his toes, and the whole person instantly soared high into the air and flew forward. Seeing this, Shen Qinghan also followed his thoughts and flew in the air closely after him. What's going on? How can she fly in the air? Is she also a rare level strongman? Seeing Shen Qinghan flying in the air, Lan Tianbei and others all opened their eyes wide, their faces full of disbelief. They have long experienced how powerful Lin Zichen is. And they really didn't expect Shen Qinghan, a little girl who has never shown much, to be so powerful. After all, Shen Qinghan looks weak and has no confidence. She is a weak person at first glance. Now it seems that she is only weak in appearance, but her strength is exaggerated. You can't judge a person by his appearance. While others were surprised at Shen Qinghan's strength, Luo Qingxu looked up slightly and looked at the two people who were getting farther and farther away in the sky, and she was very confused. Are these two people really from Earth? Why can they be so powerful? I can't figure it out. In the sky, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan flew to the open space in front of them full of corpses and debris, to clean up the battlefield there and search for spoils, and to rescue the city people who were in a bitter battle there. But before the two flew far, a very strange sound came from the surroundings. Boom! 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 Hearing the sound, Lin Zichen became alert instantly. He immediately turned on his 5 senses to the maximum. Always pay attention to the surrounding environment. After observing for a while, Lin Zichen found that this strange sound was caused by the explosion of seeds. The whole sky was filled with dark blue seeds at some point. Like dandelion seeds, they diffused in the air, emitting a little light, as dazzling as the stars in the sky. Lin Ziai, let's get away from here quickly, these seeds may be dangerous. Shen Qinghan reminded. She liked the scene in front of her very much, and thought it was very beautiful, so beautiful that it was suffocating. But she knew that the sudden appearance of such a scene on the battlefield was definitely not a good thing. It was probably related to the Sun and Moon Holy Land. Because the Sun and Moon Holy Land is the base camp of alien plants, the means are usually related to plants. The dark blue seeds in front of him at this moment were most likely the work of the Sun and Moon Holy Land. After hearing Shen Qinghan's reminder, Lin Zichen, who was still observing the seeds, woke up immediately. For some reason, he was inexplicably absorbed in observation, as if he was fascinated by the dark blue seeds around him and lost his mind. These seeds are too weird, and they must be kept away as soon as possible. With this idea, Lin Zichen quickly moved towards Shen Qinghan and took her away from the seeds around her, lest something unexpected happen. However, just as the two were about to leave, the seeds around them suddenly exploded, and a dense sound burst out. Pop! 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 At the moment when this sound appeared, the exploded seeds instantly spread a large number of blood-stained roots, taking root and sprouting directly in the air. Seeing such a weird scene, Lin Zichen had no intention of fighting against it, but immediately fled with Shen Qinghan at the fastest speed. He didn't know if he could fight back, but he knew that he couldn't rush into a head-on confrontation without understanding the enemy. Once he failed, he would die, and the price was too high. There was no cost-effectiveness at all. Buzz! Lin Zichen flew very fast with Shen Qinghan, leaving a burst of explosions in the air. Just as the two of them passed over the heads of Lan Tianbei and the others at high speed. Swish! 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 A series of sharp air-breaking sounds rang out. Countless tiny blood-colored roots shot from behind like dense hairs, and instantly caught up with the two people flying away at high speed. Before the two of them could react to what was going on, the whole sky darkened, and was completely covered by the blood-colored roots that covered the sky and the sun, and they couldn't see their fingers when they stretched out their hands. I can't see anymore. Lin Zichen's face was solemn. He had extremely strong eyesight and even stronger perception. Even in the dark night like ink, he could see every corner around him. But now, he was covered by the blood-colored roots and couldn't see anything. Even Shen Qinghan beside him could not see. Lin Ziai. Shen Qinghan was a little panicked, holding Lin Zichen's hand tightly and not daring to let go. Lin Zichen frowned and tried to sense the surrounding environment, while soothing him gently, "It's okay, it's not a big problem. The fact is, the problem is very big. Under the effect of biological attributes such as higher spirit and eye of the sky." In just a moment, Lin Zichen could vaguely sense the surrounding environment. Then he found that he and Shen Qinghan were trapped in a huge cage at the moment. This huge cage, which was entangled by countless blood-colored roots, was airtight and completely isolated from the outside world. Bang! A huge sound exploded. Lin Zichen's mind moved, and he condensed a ball of terrifying blood and chi power to hit the cage. He thought his attack could cause damage to the cage. But the fact is that the blood and chi power hit the cage, leaving only a faint trace, and did not cause any damage. This blood-colored root cage is stronger than any tree cage he had encountered before. Seeing that a strong attack didn't work, Lin Zichen immediately chose to find another way. He used the Lord of the Forest to control the blood-colored roots that made up the cage. However, he tried for a long time and failed to control it successfully once. Because the level of these blood-colored roots seems to be far beyond the rare level creatures can't control it at all. Since the road is blocked and I can't fly out, I'll try the escape technique of digging a hole and open up a new road to escape. Lin Zichen thought so in his heart, and soon brought Shen Qinghan to the ground, and used the digging instinct to dig a way to escape under his feet. It would be fine if he didn't dig, but he was desperate as soon as he dug. Even if it was a flat ground, it was full of blood-colored roots, which directly made the digging instinct a biological attribute useless and lost its due value. This is difficult. Lin Zichen's face became more and more solemn, and he couldn't find a way to get out for a while. Shen Qinghan, who was beside him, was also thinking with him at this time to see if there was any way to get out. But after thinking for a while, he couldn't think of anything. Don't move around, stay where you are and wait for me to touch and mark them one by one, don't get separated. In the darkness, Lan Tianbei's voice rang out. He and his teammates were all shrouded in a blood-red doomsday because of Lin Zichen's involvement. When Shen Qinghan heard the shout, she immediately said to Lin Zichen, Lin Ziai, Instructor Lan and the others are over there, let's go over there, there is strength in numbers. Now, her vision was blocked, she felt very uneasy, and instinctively wanted to go to a place where there were many people. Lin Zichen did not act alone this time. In order to make Shen Qinghan feel more at ease, he chose to do as she said and walked towards Lan Tianbei. Halfway through, the cage was so dark that you couldn't see your hand in front of you, but suddenly a bunch of dazzling blue light lit up on the top, illuminating the entire interior of the cage. At the moment the blue light lit up, Lan Tianbei and others saw Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan coming, and their faces were immediately full of confusion. Didn't you two fly away? Why are you here? Lan Tianbei looked at the two of them in confusion and asked. Lin Zichen replied, I hadn't flown far when I was caught in this cage that suddenly appeared. Lan Tianbei nodded and didn't ask any more questions. He frowned slightly and looked carefully at the surrounding environment, trying to judge the current situation. Lin Zichen did the same, using his 5 senses to the maximum, constantly sensing every corner of the cage. Just then, shua! A crisp sound of branches and leaves rubbing against each other was heard. Lin Zichen heard the sound and immediately looked in the direction of the sound. Then he saw a dark figure falling from the top of the cage at a high speed, hitting the ground with a bang, splashing a large amount of dust. Everyone was attracted by the movement and looked sideways at the same time. After a while, the dust dissipated. Then what came into everyone's eyes was a puppet lying flat on the ground, a human-shaped puppet the same size as a normal person. Everyone looked at the puppet with a vigilant look. Dare not approach. Dare not act rashly. Suddenly, the puppet sat up from the ground. It twisted its stiff neck, stared at the nearest girl with its empty eyes, and asked in a dead voice. Is the falling of leaves the pursuit of the wind, or the unwillingness of the tree to keep them? Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Thank you.